Yifeng wasn't just any young man, he was an internet-addicted otaku turned interdimensional spendthrift extraordinaire. Back on Earth, his biggest struggles were dodging pop-up ads and deciding whether to order ramen or pizza at 2 a.m. But all that changed when he accidentally got yeeted into the Xiantan continent. 1 second, he was loading a new MMORPG. The next, he was standing in a world where people punched mountains for fun and argued over whose sword sparkled brightest. Before he could even start freaking out, an avalanche of memories, not his, obviously flooded his brain. This place, it ran on one currency: martial prowess. The stronger you were, the higher your status. And everyone here was obsessed with joining sections. Big ones, small ones, even sects so new they didn't have a logo yet. Case in point, the Star Soul sect, which had only been around for half a month but already had a crowd frothing at the mouth to join. Yifeng, however, wasn't exactly impressed. No cheat abilities had kicked in yet, and he wasn't about to dive headfirst into this world's Hunger Games without an edge. His plan? Lay low, avoid unnecessary attention, and maybe find a quiet cave to wait this out. But just as he was about to ghost the crowd, 2 figures descended in front of the sect gates like characters stepping out of an anime. One of them, a woman with an aura so commanding it practically screamed, "Main character energy," stepped forward. This was Luo Qinxue, the Star Soul sect's leader, and wow. Yifeng couldn't help but stare. Forget influencers back on Earth, Luo Qinxue could have ruled the internet with her looks alone. But he quickly shook himself out of it. Pretty faces didn't pay the bills or, in this case, unlock cheat powers. Luo Qinxue didn't waste time with formalities. New disciples will be accepted without regard for qualifications, age, or cultivation level, she announced, her voice cutting through the crowd like a blade. Cheers erupted, excitement bubbling over. Finally, a sect that didn't discriminate. But before anyone could celebrate too much, she added the fine print. There's only one requirement. You must pay 10,000 low-grade spirit stones within an hour to join. Boom. Excitement killed. The crowd froze as if someone had just pulled the emergency brake on their enthusiasm. 10,000 spirit stones? That wasn't just steep, it was highway robbery. People started grumbling and backing away, muttering about scams and greed. Even Yifeng, who had seen some shady business practices back on Earth, couldn't believe it. Seriously? Greedy businesses exist in other dimensions too, he muttered. Just as he was about to slink away, it happened. A glowing window popped up in front of him, floating midair like something out of his favorite MMORPG. The words "Invincible Spendthrift System" blinked at him in bright, neon-like letters. His cheat had arrived. Yifeng blinked, then grinned. Wait, this is it? Already? I thought I'd have to grind for years before something like this kicked in. The system, apparently eager to prove its worth, laid out the rules. It was simple. Spend money, get stronger. Splurge like a maniac, and the system would handle the rest. Oh, and one catch: a daily spendthrift item would refresh every day, and Yifeng had to blow through it all before midnight. Fail, and points would be deducted. No refunds, no do-overs, no pressure, right? He pulled up the system's info panel, curiosity overtaking his skepticism. His combat level was hilariously low, like, could lose to a stiff breeze low. But today's spendthrift item? 10,000 Tier 9 Heavenly Thunder Talismans. He nearly choked. That was enough firepower to level a small city. And the system would provide infinite spirit stones to cover it? Jackpot. The system wasn't done. It hit him with his first task: join the Star Soul sect. Yifeng groaned. Of course it would push him straight into the deep end. Her father had insisted, calling it character building or some such nonsense. She would have much preferred focusing on her cultivation and ascending out of this mundane realm altogether. Why? Because Luo Qinxue had a secret. She was the reincarnation of a holy woman from the higher realms, hellbent on revenge. Babysitting a sect? Hard pass. Back in the present, things weren't going as planned. Luo Qinxue stood before a crowd that refused to cough up the 10,000 low-grade spirit stones required to join. She waited and waited and waited. Not a single soul came forward. With a sigh, she turned to leave. As expected, who in this backwater place could afford it? And then, just as she was about to make her exit, a voice rang out. "Sect leader, please wait. I wish to join." Luo Qinxue froze. Impossible. She turned, half expecting a prank, only to see a young man casually walking toward her. It was Yifeng. Yes, the same Yifeng who'd just called anyone willing to pay a fool. And now, he was about to be that fool. I understand the sect is in dire need of funds, he said, smiling. Allow me to contribute 100,000 low-grade spirit stones. Luo Qinxue blinked. Once, twice. Did she hear that right? 100,000? Here? In this remote corner of the world? She stared as Yifeng handed over a storage ring. With growing disbelief, she examined its contents. It really did contain 100,000 low-grade spirit stones. Not only that, but Yifeng's expression made it seem like this was no big deal. Are you sure? Luo Qinxue asked, half expecting him to take it all back. Our sect doesn't even have a proper place to stay. Yifeng waved off her concerns. It's fine. I've got plenty of money. I'll even help build the sect. Luo Qinxue felt an aneurysm coming on. She tried to dissuade him further, warning him about the lack of resources and general hardships of joining. But Yifeng? He wasn't bothered. With his spendthrift system, resources were the least of his concerns. Don't worry, sect leader, he said brightly. I'll provide everything we need. Luo Qinxue's blood pressure spiked. She really didn't want him in her sect. But a promise was a promise. Begrudgingly, she relented. Fine, you can join, she snapped. But I won't be instructing you. You'll have to figure everything out yourself. To her surprise, Yifeng didn't even flinch. Oh, that's perfect, he said, grinning. I don't need anything. Inside, he was ecstatic. No interference. Unlimited freedom to complete his spendthrift quests. Best deal ever. Luo Qinxue was this close to spitting blood. She couldn't fathom why this guy would happily drop 100,000 spirit stones and act like he just won the lottery. At one point, she even considered drawing her weapon and ending this madness right there. But her aide, the ever-level-headed old Bai, stopped her. Young miss, he said gently. We need at least one disciple for the sect. Defeated, Luo Qinxue accepted Yifeng into the sect, though her resentment simmered. Yifeng, meanwhile, completed his first system task, earning a neat 200 spendthrift points. Now eager for more, he asked the system about additional tasks. To his delight, the system revealed that any spendthrift actions could earn points, even outside specific missions. The gears in his mind began to turn. Moments later, Yifeng approached Luo Qinxue again. Sect leader, he began. Since I'm the only disciple, doesn't that technically make me your direct disciple? Luo Qinxue's patience was hanging by a thread. Absolutely not, she snapped. You're lucky I even let you join. Unfazed, Yifeng countered with a grin. What if I paid for the position? Luo Qinxue's jaw dropped. This guy. After regaining her composure, she smirked. All right, she said, naming an absurd price. 100,000 high-grade spirit stones. If you can produce that, I'll consider it. She fully expected him to balk. After all, even third-rate sects didn't have access to that kind of wealth. But Yifeng? He didn't even blink. That's it? He asked, genuinely surprised. To prove his sincerity, he handed over a storage ring containing a whopping 500,000 high-grade spirit stones. Luo Qinxue felt her soul leave her body. Who is this lunatic? The system immediately rewarded Yifeng another 200 spendthrift points, and he was thrilled. Luo Qinxue, on the other hand, was questioning every decision that had led her to this moment. With resources like that, Yifeng could have been revered as an ancestor in any third-rate sect. But no, he chose hers. Stuck with her own words, Luo Qinxue begrudgingly declared Yifeng her main direct disciple. As a token of this bizarre arrangement, she handed him the mystic azure sword, a treasure worthy of a true disciple. Inside, she wanted to bury herself in shame. The dignified maiden of the infinite holy ground had just sold a direct disciple position like it was a clearance sale. Yifeng, meanwhile, was thrilled, with resources flowing freely and his spendthrift system in full swing. Unfortunately for Yifeng, the system wasn't impressed. A true spendthrift, it chided, doesn't accept free handouts. Cue the punishment. A 20-point deduction from his hard-earned spendthrift points. If he returned the sword within an hour, he could get his points back. But still Yifeng was livid. This system is way too nitpicky. Grumbling to himself, Yifang decided he had no choice. He knelt down dramatically, holding the mystic azure sword with both hands, and presented it back to Luo Qinxue like he was surrendering Excalibur. "What are you doing?" Luo Qinxue asked, completely baffled. "I can't accept this," Yifang said with way too much sincerity. "I'd rather spend money than take something for free." Luo Qinshue's face turned red with rage. She snatched the sword back and snapped, "You think money can solve everything? If you don't appreciate my goodwill, then fine. Let it be." Storming off, she fumed inwardly. What kind of disciple is this? That sword was a 7th order spirit tool, a treasure of the sect, and he had the audacity to return it. Her frustration peaked as she flew away, her face full of resentment. Meanwhile, Yifang was left scratching his head. Old Bai is the sect master. Not very bright? She just missed out on making some money. Old Bai nearly fainted. "Shoo, if the sect leader hears you, it'll be the end of us." Privately, Old Bai was just as confused. How could someone like Yifang, ordinary, mortal Yifang, be this absurdly wealthy? Still, he couldn't deny that Yifang's arrival was shaking things up. Luo Qinshuo had been stuck in her cultivation for ages. But now, thanks to Yifang's madness, her mindset was starting to shift. Maybe this kid really is the key to breaking the stalemate. Deciding to avoid any more disasters, Old Bai hurriedly dragged Yifang back to the sect. Bored out of his mind during the flight, Yifang passed the time by counting birds. At one point, he even let a bird nest on his head. But then something clicked. "Hey, system," he asked, "how do I use my spendthrift points?" A glowing personal info panel popped up in front of him. Yifang's total: 400 spendthrift points, a solid haul after today's nonsense. He hadn't even touched the day's earnings yet. "Man, cheats are the best," Yifang muttered, admiring the panel. The system explained the realms, breaking them down from Spirit Sea all the way to the terrifying-sounding Tribulation Crossing realm. Each upgrade cost more points than the last, multiplying tenfold with every level. Yifang groaned as he did the math. "This is highway robbery," he complained. "Why does it get so expensive so fast?" Curious, he opened the Spendthrift Mall. A series of treasure containers appeared, each costing 100 spendthrift points to open. The system helpfully pointed out that there was an extremely low chance of drawing high-tier rewards. Yifang considered it. Sure, it was pricey, but if he lucked out, it could be worth it. Then again, what was he even supposed to do with a high-tier treasure at this stage? The system chimed in again. For example, if you crush a 9th grade elixir in front of an alchemist, that counts as a spendthrift action. Yifang grinned. Now that sounds fun. But he paused. As a mortal, flaunting his wealth in front of cultivators was a great way to get himself obliterated. For now, he'd play it safe. Spending 90 points, Yifang upgraded his strength to the 9th level of the Spirit Sea realm. The sudden breakthrough made Old Bai whip around in shock. "What is this kid doing now?" Old Bai muttered. He slowed the flying sword and probed Yifang's spiritual energy. His jaw dropped. "He's forming his Spirit Sea. During flight?" Yifang, deep in his consciousness, frowned. Why is this taking so long? More and more spiritual energy poured into him as he wondered why the process was dragging. Old Bai, meanwhile, was losing his mind. Is he breaking through even further? What kind of monster is this? Normally, forming the Spirit Sea required a tranquil environment and a stockpile of elixirs. Yifang was doing it casually, mid-air, with zero assistance. A moment later, Old Bai's jaw practically hit the floor as Yifang shot from the 1st level of the Spirit Sea realm to the peak of the 9th level. All in one go. When Yifang finally woke up, he stretched and looked mildly annoyed. "Old Bai, it took me 10 minutes to break through 9 levels. Won't the sect master think I'm a failure?" Old Bai stared at him, speechless. Is this kid bragging? He felt a pang of existential despair. Back in his day, it had taken him 8 months to climb the same levels, even with abundant resources. When Old Bai examined Yifang again, he discovered something even more bizarre. No spiritual roots. Yet Yifang's Spirit Sea was vast, like an endless ocean. At this point, Old Bai didn't know what to think. He decided it was best to let Luo Qinshuo figure this one out. Back at the Star Soul sect, Old Bai relayed everything to Luo Qinshuo, including the size of Yifang's Spirit Sea, 20 times larger than hers, and his lack of spiritual roots. Luo Qinshua's face went pale as she probed him herself. This shouldn't even be possible, she muttered. Without spiritual roots, how did you break through? Before Yifang could respond, mocking laughter echoed from outside. The full moon sect had arrived, their leader requesting an audience. What now? Luo Qinshu grumbled. Already fed up, she stormed out to meet them. The full moon sect's leader sneered. I heard your sect charges 10,000 low-grade spirit stones to join. Intriguing. We came to see for ourselves. Shall we have a match? Luo Qinshua's fury skyrocketed. Today had already been a lot, and now this? But then, she had a thought. If Yifang got beaten up, maybe he'd leave. Fine, she said, barely suppressing her smirk. Yifang, you take the challenge. Yifang blinked. Can I use talismans? Sure, she replied, grinning. Yifang stepped forward and casually summoned a mountain of heavenly thunder talismans, each radiating 9th grade energy. The full moon sect froze. What the how does he have so many? Yifang didn't wait. Gleefully, he unleashed the talismans, turning the battlefield into a symphony of explosions. The disciples of the full moon sect fled in terror, screaming for their master to retreat. Even Luo Qinshu, watching the chaos, was utterly speechless. This kid, she muttered, rubbing her temples. This is going to be a long journey. How did this kid get so rich? Luo Qinshu had originally assumed Yifang would get his arrogant self beaten in the challenge and leave the sect on his own. But after watching him gleefully bombard the full moon sect disciples into oblivion for hours, she had to admit that was looking unlikely. Yifang, of course, was having the time of his life. He threw talismans like a kid in a candy store, his face practically glowing with smugness. The elderly sect leader, now sweating bullets, quickly miscalculated the situation. He assumed the mountain of talismans Yifang was tossing around came from the Star Soul sect's stash. No wonder they charged 10,000 spirit stones to join. Their resources are insane. Realizing he'd bitten off more than he could chew, the old man prepared to retreat with his disciples. Luo Qinshu, however, wasn't about to let him slink away unscathed. This was her moment to shine. With a graceful step forward, she revealed her strength. The original spirit realm. The old man froze, utterly dumbfounded. Even the full moon sect's leader was only at the divine repository realm, and here was Luo Qinshu, casually standing leagues above him. She could obliterate their entire sect if she wanted. Though she had no intention of wiping them out completely, she did demand a little compensation. Leave an arm behind, or you lose your lives, she said coldly. The full moon sect disciples turned pale. They had no choice but to comply. Once their punishment was carried out, Luo Qinshu dismissed them with a flick of her sleeve. Watching this, Yifang gulped. She's terrifying. For the first time, he realized his beautiful master might also be a ruthless executioner. Luo Qinshu, maintaining her composure on the outside, turned to him. Retrieve the leftover talismans, she said flatly. Internally, though, she felt helpless. Even after all this, she hadn't managed to scare him off. Yifang, as oblivious as ever, had a request. Master, I still have over 9,000 talismans left. I can't throw them all by myself. Can you help me? Luo Qinshu froze. Is this kid for real? She opened her mouth to refuse but then thought better of it. Why bother arguing? With a resigned sigh, she agreed, curious to see how long he could keep up this wasteful act. And so, the two of them began tossing heavenly thunder talismans side by side. Each throw erupted into an explosion that lit up the night like fireworks. Watching the chaos, Luo Qinshu felt a flicker of nostalgia. A memory surfaced. Her junior sister from her previous life once dragged her into setting off fireworks together. If we can't enjoy ourselves to the fullest, isn't life just painful? She had said. Luo Qinshu had rolled her eyes back then, but now, she had to admit, her junior sister might have been onto something. Meanwhile, back at the Star Soul sect, Old Bai was trying to get some sleep when the non-stop explosions jolted him awake. Groggy and annoyed, he thought they were under attack. He hurriedly got dressed and rushed outside, only to freeze in shock. Yifang and Luo Qinshu were throwing talismans. By now, even Luo Qinshu had succumbed to the madness, casually tossing talismans as if they were scraps of paper. When Old Bai demanded to know what was going on, Luo Chenshue waved him off. "We're just disposing of them," she said, completely deadpan. "Disposing?" Old Bai roared, his voice cracked with fury. "Each of those talismans costs 1,000 low-grade spirit stones. Even the wealthiest sects can't afford to waste resources like this. And you, young lady, what's gotten into you?" Yifeng, unfazed by Old Bai's tirade, calmly pulled out a storage ring. "Old Bai, I'm sorry for disturbing your sleep. Here's 100,000 high-grade spirit stones for some tonics." Old Bai blinked. Then, without a word, he tore off his robe, revealing muscles that rivaled a bodybuilder's. "Move aside," he barked, grabbing a handful of talismans. The speed at which he began tossing them left even Yifeng speechless. Indeed, money makes the world go round. A system notification appeared. "Congratulations, host. You've earned 100 wasteful points." Yifeng smirked. So even this counted as wasteful behavior? Noted. Next time, he'd recruit Old Bai for more extravagant spending sprees. By the time they finished, Old Bai was slumped on the ground, panting like he'd run a marathon. "If there's any manual labor in the future," he wheezed, "call me. I might be old, but I'm still strong." Luo Chenshue watched all of this silently. The Star Soul sect is doomed, she thought. Then, with a smirk, she teased Old Bai. "You're one of the 8 senior elders of the Star Extreme sect, and you sold yourself for a mere 100,000 spirit stones?" Old Bai sniffed. "It's not about the spirit stones. It's about dignity." The system chimed again, awarding Yifeng 1,000 wasteful points. He checked his panel and realized he now had enough to hit the 9th level of the Qi activation realm. Perfect. With a few hundred points left over, he could even try his luck at the Spendthrift Mall. But there was still one problem. The Star Soul sect only had 3 members. Relying solely on Old Bai for extravagant spending wouldn't cut it. "What I need is more disciples," Yifeng thought. More disciples meant faster resource consumption, which meant faster point accumulation. As if on cue, a young man appeared at the entrance. "Does your sect still accept new disciples?" Yifeng's face lit up. Perfect timing. The new arrival, however, hesitated the moment he stepped inside. The ground was covered in craters. An old man was collapsed and wheezing, and a woman stood off to the side, silently glaring. The vibe was off. Is this the Star Soul sect?" the young man asked nervously. "Yes, we're still recruiting. To join, you just need to contribute 100,000 low-grade spirit stones. But if you can shell out 100,000 high-grade spirit stones, you can become the sect master's direct disciple." Yifeng then puffed out his chest. "By the way, I'm Yifeng, the eldest disciple of the sect and the personal disciple of the sect master." Wolfong froze, dumbfounded. He blinked at Yifeng, then blinked again, unsure if this guy was actually serious. Meanwhile, Yifeng stared back at him with anticipation, silently hoping Wolfong would admit he didn't have the money. That way, Yifeng could sponsor his entry and rack up some spendthrift points. Unfortunately, the system had other ideas. "Host, sponsoring others is not justifiable unless you provide a reasonable explanation." Yifeng sighed, quickly making something up. "We get along, all right? The moment I saw him, I just knew. He's like a brother to me, a brother from another mother. Is it wrong to spend a little on my brother?" To his surprise, the system actually approved. But before Yifeng could act on his plans, Wolfong began inching away. This sect seemed sketchy, too focused on money to be trustworthy. "Oh no, you don't," Yifeng thought. He darted forward and caught Wolfong in a chokehold, locking him in place. Wolfong struggled until suddenly, he received a telepathic message from his grandfather. "Stay in this sect. Once I've settled my affairs, I'll come for you." With a groan of defeat, she decided to test the new recruit's commitment. "Fine, but you'll need to hand over 10,000 low-grade spirit stones to join." She fully expected this would scare Wolfong away. No one in their right mind would cough up that kind of money so easily. To her shock, Wolfong reached into his storage ring and handed over the exact amount. "I'd like to join," he said plainly. Luo Chenshue stared at him, utterly stunned. Moments ago, he'd looked ready to sprint for the hills. Now he was acting like a loyal recruit. Have I been secluded for so long that this is now the trend? Left with no choice, she accepted Wolfong into the sect, though she made it clear she wouldn't offer him any guidance. You'll cultivate on your own, she said firmly, fully expecting him to quit within a week. But Wolfong wasn't fazed. That's fine, he replied. My grandfather already provided me with everything I need for my primary cultivation. Luo Chinchua froze, her face turning red with rage. She was so furious she nearly spat blood. Why does everyone insist on playing the fool? Old Bai chuckled in the background. Congratulations, Mississippi. Another disciple. Luo Chinchua shot him a murderous glare. She left in a huff, muttering about how this sect was going to drive her insane. Later, Yifeng struck up a conversation with Wolfong, learning his full name and promptly promoting him to inner sect disciple on the spot. Senior, Wolfong muttered, rubbing his temple. This guy is unreliable and not too bright. How am I supposed to survive here? But then Yifeng's eyes landed on something extraordinary. An alchemy furnace in Wolfang's room. Are you an alchemist? He asked. Puffing out his chest, Wolfong raised 3 fingers. I'm a 3rd-grade alchemist. In this world, roles like alchemists, talisman masters, and artifact refiners were highly revered. Even a low-grade alchemist could earn massive respect, and a 3rd-grade alchemist, practically royalty. In his mind, Wolfong already imagined Yifeng begging him to refine pills. He even imagined revealing his cultivation level the 9th layer of the merging spirit realm and watching Yifeng's jaw drop. Back to reality. Yifeng's reaction to Wolfang's big reveal was a casual, "Oh." Wolfong blinked. That's it? No praise? No astonishment? Anyway, Yifeng interrupted. Which 3rd-grade spiritual herbs are rare? Caught off guard, Wolfong thought for a moment. Bamboo demon grass, white spirit flower, purple thunder fruit, and a few others. Even 9th-grade alchemists rarely encounter them. Yifeng nodded thoughtfully. Moments later, he accessed the system and spent 1,200 spendthrift points opening jars. In no time, he'd acquired 2 bamboo demon grass, 1 white spirit flower, and 3 purple thunder fruit. Frozen in place, Yifeng stared at his haul. Wolfong noticed his senior's dazed expression and assumed he was ignorant about alchemy. Don't worry, senior, he said kindly. It's normal for non-alchemists not to recognize rare herbs. Then Yifeng bolted out of the room, mumbling something about water. Wolfong chuckled. What an unpredictable guy. Moments later, Yifeng returned with a pot of soup. Wolfang's smile vanished as he spotted rare herbs floating in the broth. He fished one out, examining it with shaking hands. It was the real deal. Brother, these are priceless treasures. What are you doing? Before he could react, Yifeng snatched the herbs back. I heard brewing spiritual herbs is good for cultivation, Yifeng said nonchalantly. But I guess I was wrong. Then, without hesitation, Yifeng crushed the herbs under his foot, grinding them into the floor for good measure. Stop! Wolfong lunged, but it was too late. The herbs were gone, completely obliterated. Wolfong felt his soul leave his body. Even grandfather has never seen such rare herbs, and this lunatic just destroyed them. Meanwhile, Yifeng received a notification. Congratulations, host. You've earned 1,500 spendthrift points. Smiling, he patted Wolfong on the shoulder. It's okay. My bad for not recognizing them. Rest up, Junior. I'll be taking my leave. Returning to his room, Yifeng dumped the remaining herbs into a pot for a luxurious foot soak. He sighed contentedly, until he noticed his feet turning black. Wolfong barged in moments later, yelling about toxins. Senior, you combined bamboo demon grass and purple thunder fruit. That's poisonous. Meanwhile, the system chimed happily in Yifeng's head. Congratulations, host. Another wasteful success. Awarded 1,500 spending points. Yifeng's panic instantly turned to relief. Even better, the system provided a solution for detoxifying his feet. 1,000 spending points to cleanse the toxins completely. He let out a long breath. Good, no harm done. Actually, this wasteful method was even better than I thought. Discreetly, Yifeng spent the points to cleanse himself. His feet immediately returned to their normal color. Then, with zero hesitation, he dipped his feet back into the tub for round 2. Wolfang's jaw hit the floor. Why, you're doing it again? This water is literally toxic. Relax, Yifeng said, waving him off. The system can detoxify me anytime. Come on, Junior, join me. There's room for two. He grinned and patted the edge of the tub. It's a medicinal bath. Feels amazing. I'll detox you too if anything happens. Wolfong looked at him like he'd lost his mind. You want me to soak in toxic water? He shook his head in disbelief and muttered something about losing brain cells just by standing there. Finally, he turned to leave, unable to watch any longer. As he walked away, Wolfong considered informing the sect leader about what had happened. But after some thought, he decided against it. I'm not a snitch, he told himself, sighing deeply. Still, he couldn't shake the helpless feeling that his senior was going to destroy the sect one reckless act at a time. Meanwhile, Yifeng finished his luxurious soak, detoxified again using the system, and decided to channel his newfound energy into cultivating. Spending 900 spending points, he upgraded his cultivation to the 9th level of the Qi activation realm. Elsewhere in the main hall, Luo Qinxue was discussing Yifeng's peculiarities with Old Bai. Do you have any idea where he came from? She asked, pinching the bridge of her nose. Not yet, Old Bai admitted, stroking his beard. But I believe time will reveal the truth. What truly concerned Old Bai was something else. Yifeng's ability to throw the young Mrs. Emotions into chaos. Every time Luo Qinxue thought about him, she'd grit her teeth so hard it was a miracle she hadn't cracked them. As they spoke, an immense surge of spiritual energy erupted from the disciples' quarters, causing both of them to pause. Luo Qinxue turned to Old Bai with a sharp look. It's him again, isn't it? Old Bai frowned, finding the phenomenon strangely familiar. It can't be, he murmured. He just reached the peak of the Spirit Sea realm. Breaking through again so soon would defy all logic. And yet, this was Yifeng. Logic didn't seem to apply. Moments later, they both sensed the unmistakable aura of the Qi activation realm. But it didn't stop there. Yifeng's energy kept surging, and in the blink of an eye, he advanced from the 1st level of the Qi activation realm to the 9th level. Luo Qinxue's eyes widened in disbelief. Old Bai, am I hallucinating? Or did he just break through 9 levels in 5 minutes? Old Bai was equally stunned. This cultivation speed, it's unheard of. He silently cheered for Yifeng, hoping he could even reach the merging spirit realm. But beside him, Luo Qinxue looked increasingly disheartened. No wonder he was so confident before, she muttered bitterly. He really doesn't need my guidance. At this rate, he might surpass me as sect leader in a few days. Old Bai coughed awkwardly, realizing he might have praised Yifeng a little too much earlier. That's unlikely, young miss, he said hastily. Advancing in the higher realms is much harder. It requires opportunities, resources, and elixirs. For Yifeng to catch up to you, there's still a long way to go. Privately, though, Old Bai wasn't so sure. This kid might actually surpass her. Meanwhile, in his room, Wolfong sat in stunned silence. This is my unreliable senior brother? He'd broken through 9 levels in a single breath. No wonder his grandfather had insisted he stay. The next day, Yifeng woke up refreshed and ready for more mischief. Checking the system, he found today's spending product, 10,000 Tier 3 9-pattern clear mysterious pills. But a glance at his spending points 310 filled him with regret. He'd wasted 2,000 points yesterday detoxifying his feet. I was too flamboyant. Should have kept it low-key, he thought with a sigh. Still, an idea struck him. These pills, they'd be perfect for annoying Junior. Yifeng grinned, imagining Wolfang's reaction. Somewhere across the sect, Wolfong sneezed, a bad feeling creeping over him. Yifeng headed to Wolfang's residence but found it empty. Did he run away? Yifeng wondered aloud. Just then, Old Bai appeared and explained that Wolfong and Luo Qinxue had gone to a nearby town to buy spiritual herbs. Perfect, Yifeng exclaimed. Take me with you, Old Bai. I want to see the town too. Old Bai agreed and they set off. But to Yifeng's dismay, the nearest town required a 5-hour flight. Bored out of his mind mid-flight, Yifeng began chatting with Old Bai. Hey, what's the point of bamboo demon grass, white spirit flower, and purple thunder fruit anyway? He asked innocently. Old Bai raised an eyebrow, sensing danger in the question. Why are you asking? Oh, no reason. Yifeng said with a grin. Old Bai sighed. This was going to be a long flight. Old Bai's flying sword came to an abrupt halt midair. He turned to Yifeng with wide, disbelieving eyes. You used those spiritual herbs for a foot soak? Yifeng grinned mischievously. Exactly. You should try it sometime, it's absolutely invigorating. Old Bai's jaw hung open as if he'd just heard the most blasphemous statement of his life. Precious third-tier spiritual herbs so rare that even alchemists drooled over them turned into glorified bath salts? He couldn't decide whether to faint or curry favor with Yifeng. Better keep this kid happy, Old Bai thought. Maybe he'll share next time. After several more hours of travel, they finally reached the nearby town. Old Bai, clearly eager to ditch Yifeng, landed first. I have some business to attend to, he said hurriedly, already inching away. Try not to cause trouble. We'll meet up later. Yifeng waved dismissively. Sure. Go hang out with your old buddies. Why'd you even bring me along if you're just going to ditch me? Old Bai muttered something inaudible and took off, feeling relieved. Now I can enjoy some peace. Left to his own devices, Yifeng wandered through the town with curiosity practically glowing on his face. He was like a kid in a candy store peeking into shops, marveling at items he didn't understand, and even nearly walking into a brothel. Maybe later, he muttered. Eventually, he stumbled upon the Tanya auction house, his eyes lighting up with glee. Time to splurge. Still, a sliver of concern crept in. If he exposed his wealth too recklessly, wouldn't he attract trouble? Thankfully, the system reassured him with a notification. Host. In the event of a life-threatening crisis, the Divine Tycoon's guard will activate to eliminate the threat. However, it will only target enemies directly endangering the host. Yifeng burst out laughing. Truly an unbeatable spendthrift system. Now I can splurge without fear. With that, he walked into the auction house like he owned the place. Thanks for watching, guys. Comment Flamingo and subscribe for the next part. Upon entering, Yifeng informed the attendant that he had some elixirs to auction off. He was quickly introduced to Chao Anshan, a 6th-tier alchemist who looked about as old as dust. Chao gave Yifeng a dismissive glance before inspecting the pill Yifeng handed him. A 9-striped, clear, mysterious pill. Yifeng tilted his head. Is that good? Chao's hands trembled as he held the pill like it was a priceless artifact. Extremely good. You don't understand, 3rd-tier elixirs are notoriously difficult to refine. A mistake in the process ruins the whole batch. Most pills barely reach 6 or 7 stripes, and an 8-striped pill is already considered a treasure. But a 9-striped pill? This is the pinnacle of refinement. Yifeng blinked. Cool. So, how much is it worth? Chao paused, clearly annoyed at Yifeng's lack of appreciation. Well, he began, his tone heavy with condescension. A regular 3rd-tier pill goes for around 100,000 low-tier spirit stones. But this value is hard to estimate. Only an auction can determine its true worth. Yifeng's jaw dropped. Wait, this broken pill is worth 100,000 spirit stones? Chao choked. Broken? This is a masterpiece. What do you mean, broken? Ignoring Chao's indignation, Yifeng handed him another pill. Here, add this one to the afternoon auction too. I'll collect the money later. Chao looked like he might combust from frustration, but he took the pills anyway. From a distance, he could hear Yifeng muttering to himself. I wonder which fool would spend so much on a pill. Chao nearly fell over. Wouldn't that make you the fool, since you're the one selling them? Leaving the auction house, Yifeng popped a clear, mysterious pill into his mouth and casually strolled through town. With 10,000 pills to get through today, he figured he might as well snack on them like candy. That's when he spotted a scruffy stray dog limping in an alley. The poor thing looked miserable, skinny, dirty, and pitiful. Yifeng's heart melted. You're coming with me, little buddy, he said, tossing it a giant bone. Naming the dog Little Yellow, Yifeng quickly concocted a plan. With only a handful of people in the sect, Luo Qinxue, Old Bai, Wolfong, and himself, he needed more help wasting resources. Little Yellow was the perfect addition to his wastrel squad. The dog happily devouring pills would save him time. But first, Little Yellow needed a bath. Yifeng took the dog to a nearby restaurant and demanded a premium room for the occasion. However, the waiter refused. Sir, we don't allow dogs inside. Ifeng raised an eyebrow. I didn't ask for your opinion. How much? The waiter's expression didn't budge. No amount of money dash before he could finish. Ifeng was still annoyed. He'd paid 10 times the cost of the room, but the system hadn't counted it as wasteful behavior. Seriously? I just wasted a fortune. Little Yellow, meanwhile, wagged its tail obliviously as hot water was brought in. Once the dog was sparkling clean, Ifeng smiled. All right, Little Yellow, time to get to work. He handed the dog a pill. Without hesitation, Little Yellow gulped it down, happily wagging its tail. Ifeng chuckled. Good boy, we'll get through these pills in no time. Unbeknownst to Little Yellow, it was about to suffer greatly. But for now, the dog enjoyed its happy moments, blissfully unaware of the chaos that came with being Ifeng's pet. Ifeng strolled back into his room, feeling refreshed after his outing. He glanced at Little Yellow, who was sprawled on the floor, snoring away like it owned the place. You're really slacking, Ifeng muttered, poking the dog with his foot. You've only eaten, 2,000 pills? And now you're being lazy. Little Yellow stirred and let out a protesting howl, as if to say, I can't eat another bite. Ifeng sighed dramatically. Fine, I'll join you. He flopped down beside the dog, exhausted from his day of being a wasteful tycoon. As they both dozed off, something incredible began to happen. The thousands of pills Little Yellow had consumed were transforming the scruffy stray into something extraordinary, a mythical beast in the making. Elsewhere, Old Bai was having a leisurely chat with an old friend, Old Xia, who looked particularly smug. Do you know what just came through the auction branch? Old Xia asked, his voice dripping with pride. 2 special, third-tier clear, mysterious pills. Go on. Guess how many stripes they have. Old Bai rolled his eyes. You've been fussing about this all morning. Fine. 7 stripes, right? Who refined them? Old Xia held up 9 fingers. 9 stripes. 2 of them. Practically perfect, just shy of a 10-striped pill. Old Bai's brows shot up. 9 stripes. Who brought them in? That's the thing, Old Xia said, shrugging. No name, no background. Just a young man who didn't even seem to care about them. Connecting the dots, Old Bai froze. A young man who didn't care about precious 9-striped pills? This had to be Ifeng. He sighed, already feeling a headache coming on. Let's visit this young man, Old Bai said. Old Xia frowned. What's so special about your lady's disciple? You'll see, Old Bai replied cryptically. Meanwhile, at the Tanya auction house, Luo Chinxue had shown up for the afternoon auction. She spotted the 2 9-striped clear mysterious pills immediately, their brilliance dazzling even from a distance. She had no idea where they had come from, but she had to have them. Her plan? Use the pills to regain some authority in front of Ifeng and Wolfang. That arrogant disciple definitely doesn't have anything this rare. Once he sees me with these, he'll have to worship me. Luo Chinxue chuckled to herself, imagining the smug look she'd give Ifeng when she flaunted the pills. Back at Ifeng's room, Old Bai and Old Xia arrived, only to find the door locked. Could he be asleep? Old Xia asked. Old Bai scowled. A qualified cultivator shouldn't waste time sleeping. With zero hesitation, he kicked the door open. The scene inside left both men speechless. The table was piled high with 9-striped clear mysterious pills, and the floor was littered with the remnants of even more pills. In the middle of it all, Ifeng and Little Yellow were lazily sprawled out, surrounded by what looked like the aftermath of an alchemical hurricane. Ifeng groggily opened his eyes at the noise. Old Bai, what are you doing here? Finished your tasks already? He yawned, then noticed Little Yellow still lounging on the ground. You silly dog, Ifeng scolded. Always sleeping. Why haven't you finished the pills yet? To everyone's shock, Little Yellow let out a huff of pure disdain and kicked one of the pills away with its paw. Old Xia nearly fainted on the spot. This is a 9-striped clear mysterious pill. It's priceless. And this dog, it's rejecting it. Old Bai, peering closely at Little Yellow, stroked his chin. There's something strange about this dog. Look at the spiritual energy it's absorbing. It's transforming into a beast. No impurities in its body. Quite remarkable. Trying to hold himself together, Old Xia turned to Ifeng. How many of these pills have you fed this dog? Ifeng thought for a moment. Not many. Maybe about 2,000. Old Xia spat out a mouthful of tea he hadn't even been drinking. Grabbing Old Bai by the collar, he yelled, 2,000! Do you realize how precious these pills are? And you let this happen. Aren't you supposed to be supervising him? Old Bai shrugged. What can I do? The kid's too rich. When our master and junior brother Wolfong going to show up? I need reinforcements. Halfway through his chewing, Old Bai paused, glancing at Yifeng. The two clear, mysterious pills that sold at the Tanya auction house, they were yours, weren't they? Yifeng smirked. Yep, I threw those mediocre pills in just to see who'd be foolish enough to buy them. Old Xia nearly spat out the pill he was chewing. Mediocre. A single one of those pills sold for 1 million low-grade spirit stones. And you put them up for auction just to mock the buyer? Meanwhile, Luo Chinchue was speeding toward Yifeng's room, clutching the 2 auctioned pills with pride. She couldn't wait to flaunt them in front of Yifeng. No matter how rich you are, there's no way you could get your hands on something this rare. Wolfong, running beside her, was practically glowing with excitement. Master, I can't believe you spent so much for us. You're amazing. When they finally reached Yifeng's door, Wolfong froze. His wide eyes locked onto the chaotic scene inside, and his trembling hand pointed toward it. Luo Chinchue, still smug, glanced past him and her expression instantly crumbled. Inside, Yifeng, Old Bai, Old Xia, and Little Yellow were all eating pills. Not just any pills, but 9 striped, clear, mysterious pills. There were scattered pill boxes on the ground, a massive pile on the table, and a general aura of excess that made her head spin. She stared at the chaos, her knuckles white from gripping the auctioned pills. Wait, don't tell me, Wolfong stammered. Master, what's wrong? It was only then that the group inside noticed the newcomers. Old Bai's eyes darted to the boxes in Luo Chinchue's hands, and realization dawned. He elbowed Old Xia. Those are the pills from the auction, aren't they? Old Xia sighed, nodding. They are. Luo Chinchue's mind raced. She had spent a fortune bidding for the pills, thinking they were a rare treasure, only to find out they'd been casually thrown into the auction by her own disciple. The absurdity of it all hit her like a ton of bricks. She laughed first softly, then louder, until she was practically howling. Isn't it funny, Old Bai? She asked, still laughing through gritted teeth. Old Bai winced, unsure how to respond. You did it for their sake, sect leader. Nothing wrong with that. Thankfully, Wolfong broke the tension. Senior brother, he said, practically bouncing. Can I eat the pills too? I want to join the pill gorging. Old Bai and Old Xia lit up with relief. Yes, please, they cried in unison, eager to hand over the burden. Feng grinned. Eat as many as you want, Junior. Wolfong didn't need any more encouragement. Drooling with anticipation, he dove toward the pile, grabbing fistfuls of pills like a kid in a candy store. But as he did, one pill fell from the edge of the table and landed near Little Yellow. Wolfong froze. No, that's a 9-striped, clear, mysterious pill. Don't let the dog dash too late. Little Yellow, already stuffed, lazily kicked the pill away, its expression one of pure disdain. Wolfong gawked, completely stunned. It just kicked it away? Old Xia, unable to take it anymore, turned to Luo Chinchue. Sect leader Luo, you need to manage him. Over 2,000 of these pills wasted on a dog. It's madness. Feng shrugged. What can I say? The dog eats faster than humans. Wolfong, clutching his chest, thought bitterly, even the dog is more fortunate than me. An hour later, Old Bai, Old Xia, and Wolfong were sprawled on the floor, groaning. Their bellies were so full they couldn't move. Yifeng looked at the table, still piled with over 2,000 pills, and frowned. Turning to Luo Chinchue, he gave her his best, pleading look. Master, please, I need your help. Luo Chinchue crossed her arms. Absolutely not. It's undignified. Please, Master, Feng begged. With a sigh, Luo Chinchue relented. Fine, I'll buy the rest of the pills at 10 times their price and send them to my father's sect. That way, they'll be put to good use. Old Bai coughed. You're seriously trying to talk about money with Yifeng? Luo Chinchue froze, realizing her mistake. Blushing, she finally gave in. To persuade her, Yifeng even arranged the pills into a heart shape on a plate, decorating it with roses. "Master," he said dramatically, "for you." Luo Qinxue blushed even harder but reluctantly picked up a pill. With everyone pitching in, the final pills were consumed, and Yifeng's task was complete. Rewards: Yifeng earned 300 wasteful points for hiring the old men, 1,000 points for completing the task, and a bonus of 3 9-grade soul returning herbs and 5 9-grade gold and silkworm star shining stones. Luo Qinxue, meanwhile, sat off to the side, lamenting, "Old Bai, what's the point of me being a sect leader? I don't guide cultivation. I don't provide resources. I just clean up after Yifeng." Old Bai nodded gravely. "He's not really a disciple sect leader. He's more like the sect's money god. A wasteful money god." Luo Qinxue muttered, shaking her head. Yifeng turned to Old Xia and asked, "Do you know what the 9-leaf soul-returning herb is?" Unexpectedly, Old Xia's face lit up with excitement. "Of course, I'm very familiar with it. It's a legendary spiritual herb." He eagerly began explaining, "Each leaf of the soul-returning herb represents its medicinal potency. The more leaves, the more powerful it is. But I've never even seen a single-leaf soul-returning herb, let alone a 9-leaf one." He continued, "The soul-returning herb is the most essential ingredient for crafting the soul-returning life-saving pill. With this pill, even if someone has been dead for no more than 24 hours, and their soul has been annihilated, it can bring them back. It's incredibly powerful." Old Xia's tone grew more serious as he added, "The life-saving pill is the most urgently needed medicine for any tribulation-crossing realm expert. With its protection, even if someone fails to cross a tribulation and their physical body is destroyed, their soul will remain intact. They can recreate their body and come back to life. It's like being able to hop back and forth between the living world and the underworld." Pausing for a moment, Old Xia glanced at Yifeng with curiosity. "But why do you ask?" By now, Old Bai had started to sense something unusual. He turned to Old Xia and asked discreetly, "Do you know about bamboo demon grass, white spirit flower, and purple thunder fruit?" Old Xia nodded. "Yes, I know them. These spiritual plants are rare and valuable, but they can still be found in small quantities within major sections. They're not exceptionally extraordinary." Old Bai sighed deeply, then revealed, "Well, Yifeng here used those herbs for a foot soak yesterday." Old Xia froze in place, his jaw dropping in disbelief. "A foot soak?" he exclaimed. "That's outrageous. What a massive waste." While Old Xia struggled to process this, Old Bai turned to Yifeng, his expression stern. "You must have the 9-leaf soul-returning herb, don't you? Please, whatever you do, don't use it for a foot soak this time. It's a legendary spiritual herb." Yifeng murmured casually, "But I have 3 of them. Using one for a soak isn't a big deal, right?" Hearing this, Old Xia grew visibly anxious. "Absolutely not," he exclaimed, his voice urgent. "If you really have 3 9-leaf soul-returning herbs, please sell them to me. I'll give you everything I have. It's a life-saving herb if you actually use it for a foot soak. It would be completely insane." Yifeng, unfazed by Old Xia's reaction, walked over to Luo Qinxue, pulled out a soul-returning herb, and handed it to her. "This is a token of respect from your disciple," he said calmly. Luo Qinxue froze, unsure of how to respond. Not only had Yifeng spent 100,000 top-grade spirit stones to become her direct disciple, but he'd also gifted her 400,000 more as a token of respect for accepting him. And now he was handing her a legendary spiritual herb. Her thoughts spun wildly. Am I just mooching off my disciple now? But then, unexpectedly, her thoughts took a risque turn. What if I have to offer my body to him in gratitude someday? She quickly shook her head, forcing herself back to reality. No, I can't accept this herb. But then another thought struck her. I'll need the life-saving pill for my tribulation as well. Meanwhile, Yifeng declared his plans for the remaining 2 herbs. One will go toward my foot soak, he said casually, and the other will go to Old Bai as long as he does some manual labor. Old Bai was overjoyed and immediately expressed his gratitude. However, Old Xia quickly interjected. Are you sure you only want manual labor? Consider me too. I'm quite strong, you know? Don't be fooled by my appearance. Old Xia declared, flexing his transformed, muscular physique. Yifeng blinked, startled by the display, while Old Bai immediately grew anxious and stepped forward to confront him. "What are you trying to do? That soul-returning herb is mine. Don't even think about it." The two stared each other down, the tension building as both vied for the herb. Meanwhile, Wolfong, lying on the side and clearly having overeaten, listened to their argument and wondered if he should shamelessly ask his senior brother, Yifeng, if he could join in on the legendary foot soak. Old Xia, deciding to switch strategies, suddenly turned toward Luo Qinxue. Invoking a historical reference, he said, "In ancient times, there was Lu Fengxian who paid respects to his adoptive father. Now, there's Xia Tanya pledging allegiance." Luo Qinxue blinked, utterly confused. Old Xia stood tall, clearing his throat. "Yes, I've decided. I want to join the Star Soul sect." "What?" Luo Qinxue was flabbergasted. Old Xia nodded solemnly. "I've wandered for half my life, and I deeply regret never joining a sect. If you, Sect Master Luo, don't mind, may I join your sect as an honorary elder? You're a 9th grade alchemist and a mighty tribulation-crossing realm expert," Luo Qinxue said, struggling to process his words. "And your Tanya auction house is spread all over the Xiantian continent. Are you sure you want to join our modest Star Soul sect?" "I'm sure," Old Xia affirmed, his tone unwavering. To ensure his entry, he even brought up a trump card. "Little girl, I held you when you were a baby. If you refuse me, I'll go straight to your father." Luo Qinshua's mouth opened and closed, utterly speechless. Old Xia had his reasons, of course. Seeing Yifeng casually gift and use legendary herbs made it clear the young man had an unimaginable wealth of treasures. If Old Xia didn't establish a relationship now, he might miss out on untold opportunities in the future. Luo Qinshu asked cautiously, "But what about the auction house, Old Xia?" "Oh, I'll leave it to my good-for-nothing son," Old Xia replied dismissively. Old Bai, watching this unfold, sighed in resignation. "I admit defeat, Old Xia. I can't compete with your audacity." Smirking, Old Xia replied smugly, "I love that look on your face when you can't stand me but can't do anything about it. As for the soul-returning herb," Old Xia added with a sly grin, "that'll depend on everyone's performance from now on." This made Luo Qinshu so mad she almost spat blood. She'd never even wanted to expand her sect. First, she ended up with 2 unexpected disciples, and now a 9th grade alchemist? How was she supposed to focus on cultivation and ascend to the higher realm to seek revenge? At that moment, Yifeng, ever the instigator, suddenly asked, "By the way, does anyone know about the gold and silkworm star shining stone?" The room fell silent for a beat before Old Bai, Old Xia, and Luo Qinshu exclaimed in unison, "You have a gold and silkworm star shining stone?" Startled by their reactions, Yifeng quickly denied it. "I don't have it. I was just asking." But the 3 of them weren't convinced they knew his style. He definitely had the stone. Wolfong, watching this unfold, couldn't hold back his curiosity. "Senior brother, where are you even getting all these treasures from?" Before anyone could press Yifeng further, Luo Qinshu received a notification. There was an issue back at the sect, and they needed to return immediately. It turned out that her father, Luo Wuming, had arrived with important matters to discuss. However, Luo Qinshu knew the real reason he was here to inspect the progress of her sect. A few hours later, upon their return to the Star Soul sect, they were greeted by Luo Wuming, whose expression was one of deep disappointment. "You've greatly disappointed me," he said, his tone sharp. Luo Qinshu's heart sank. Something was clearly wrong. "Father," she began cautiously. Luo Wuming let out a frustrated sigh and began venting. "It was the recruitment day for the Star Soul sect recently. I wanted to visit during the celebrations, but there wasn't even anyone to serve me tea. I prepared so many gifts and waited the whole day without seeing anyone. If I hadn't sent you a message, I'd probably still be waiting there now." Luo Qinshu was mortified. Trying to salvage the situation, she quickly introduced Yifeng and Wolfong as her disciples. Luo Wuming raised an eyebrow. "I didn't take any disciples," he said skeptically. "These 2 are my disciples," Luo Qinshu clarified, feeling slightly relieved to have them as a shield. She quickly added, "Please don't be upset, father. I even took Yifeng as my direct disciple." Her father looked at her, clearly shocked. Luo Wuming knew his daughter well. She had never shown concern for anything before. For her to take on a direct disciple was unheard of. He inspected Yifeng closely. "How's his spiritual root?" he asked. "He has no spiritual root," Luo Qinxue replied calmly. "What about his innate talent?" Luo Wuming pressed. "He has none," she said flatly. Luo Wuming's bewildered expression grew as he finally asked, "Then what on earth made him your direct disciple?" Stepping forward, Yifeng explained matter-of-factly, "I bought the position with 500,000 high-quality spirit stones." Luo Wuming was utterly flabbergasted. "Is that even possible? This is just too casual. Daughter, if you needed money, you could have just asked me. There was no need to do this." Meanwhile, Old Bai and Old Xia were both vying for Yifeng's favor. Old Xia even pulled out a stool for Yifeng to sit on, while Old Bai fumed silently. Old Bai finally snapped. "Old Xia, have you completely forgotten martial etiquette?" Not to be outdone, Old Bai stepped forward and offered Yifeng a massage, even serving him tea. Watching this absurd display, Luo Wuming was utterly confused. "Bai Tianhong, aren't you an elder of my star extreme sect? And Xia Tanya, what are you doing in my daughter's sect?" After a half-hour-long explanation, Luo Wuming finally understood everything: the 9-pattern clear mysterious pills, the 9-leaf soul-returning herb, and more. Amazed, he exclaimed, "Truly, he's a god of wealth not just for my daughter's star soul sect, but even for my own star extreme sect. I treat him with reverence, too." Old Bai nodded in agreement. He even suspected that Yifeng might hail from a certain special place. However, Luo Wuming quickly interrupted, "Don't mention that place." He looked at his daughter and softened. "As long as you're all fine, I'm content. I just came to see how you're doing." That evening, as Yifeng rested, Wolfong excitedly brought a basin of foot-soaking water. Seeing this, Yifeng raised an eyebrow knowingly. "You want to soak your feet too?" Wolfong scratched his head nervously. "Senior brother, you go first. I'll soak mine after you're done." Yifeng chuckled. "I'm not a stingy person. Bring another basin of water. Let's split the 9-leaf soul-returning herb in half and each have a share." Hearing this, Wolfong was moved to tears. "Senior brother, you're so good to me." What they didn't realize was that Old Bai and Old Xia were secretly watching everything unfold from the rooftop. When they saw Yifeng using the precious 9-leaf soul-returning herb to soak his feet, Old Xia felt his heart shatter into pieces. A day had passed since Yifeng's infamous foot soak, and the effects of the legendary herb were astonishing. Even from such casual usage, Yifeng's body and soul were significantly purified. As a result, he now had a total of 2,510 wasteful points. Meanwhile, today's wasteful product had been refreshed. 10,000 fragments of underworld sword intent. Curious and unfamiliar with their use, Yifeng took one fragment out for testing. To experiment, he called over Little Yellow, placing the fragment on the dog's forehead. Immediately, a gust of wind surged as the idea of the underworld sword intent emerged in Little Yellow's mind. From the outside, however, nothing looked out of the ordinary. Yifeng tilted his head, disappointed by the lack of any spectacular effects. Still, with his years of experience as a bookworm, he could tell from the name alone that this was likely a valuable item. He asked the system if he could use the wasteful product himself, but the system flatly rejected him. If Yifeng wanted to use it personally, a significant number of his wasteful points would be deducted. Yifeng sighed in frustration. Using it himself was off the table, and he couldn't exactly ask for help either. What if someone else took the fragments and didn't return them? That would be disastrous. Thinking this, he hugged Little Yellow and returned to his room. Elsewhere, Luo Wuming was suggesting to Luo Qinxue that Yifeng and Wolfong head to the Heavenly Dao battlefield to gain experience. Luo Qinxue was hesitant. While she trusted Yifeng to some extent, she was far more concerned about Wolfang's safety. Sensing her worry, Luo Wuming assured her, "Don't worry, I'll send a few inner disciples from the Star Extreme sect to accompany them." However, he couldn't help but ask, "Why do you have so much faith in Yifeng? He has a lot of treasures, sure, but isn't he just a mortal? In the Heavenly Dao battlefield, even the weakest cultivator or beast could easily kill him." Luo Qinxue clarified, "While it's true that he lacks spiritual roots, Yifeng has already cultivated to the 9th peak of the Qi activation realm. His spirit sea is 20 times larger than mine. Luo Wuming's jaw dropped in disbelief. What? He couldn't believe it. Luo Chenxue herself held the Star Extreme Sect's record for the largest spirit sea. And yet here was a mortal without spiritual roots whose spirit sea dwarfed hers by such a staggering margin. Suddenly, a powerful surge of sword intent erupted nearby, interrupting their conversation. The overwhelming energy drew the attention of both Luo Wuming and Luo Chenxue, as well as Wolfong and Old Xia. Thinking that an expert wielding underworld sword intent was attacking, they rushed toward the source, fully prepared to fight. However, when they arrived, they were greeted with an entirely different sight. Yifeng was casually playing frisbee with Little Yellow, who was the one emanating the powerful sword intent. Luo Wuming, Luo Chenxue, and the others stood frozen in shock. The one possessing underworld sword intent was a dog. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they wouldn't have believed it. Noticing their presence, Yifeng turned to them, puzzled. Why are you all here? Luo Chenxue ignored his question and instead demanded, What's going on? Did Little Yellow comprehend the underworld sword intent on his own? Yifeng waved her off. How is that possible? He's way too dumb to figure it out himself. I just had some fragments of underworld sword intent, so I used them on him. Hearing this, everyone was dumbfounded. Such a waste. Both Luo Chenxue and Old Xia glared at Yifeng as if they were ready to lecture him. Seeing their reactions, Yifeng grew a bit nervous. Luo Chenxue explained in a cold tone, The underworld sword intent is incredibly rare, even in the heavenly Dao battlefield. Obtaining it is nearly impossible. It all depends on one's luck. Yet you casually used such precious fragments on a dog? Even if you're being wasteful, you should at least know your limits. Yifeng, trying to shift the conversation, curiously asked, What exactly is the heavenly Dao battlefield? Luo Chenxue sighed and explained, The Xiantian continent is just one of many lower realms. Every lower realm has access to the heavenly Dao battlefield, and based on one's strength, they're sent to different areas. No one knows exactly how the battlefield came to be, but it's filled with cultivation resources, legacies, treasures, and more. However, it's also incredibly dangerous. Apart from threats from beings of other dimensions, the native beasts inside are extremely powerful. It's not uncommon for someone to lose their life there. After hearing this, Yifeng's system issued a new mission. Go to the second layer of the heavenly Dao battlefield and slay 100 beasts at the 9th peak of the Qi activation realm. Seeing the reward, a massive number of wasteful points, Yifeng's interest was piqued. However, he hesitated. He had plenty of spiritual power but lacked martial skills and combat experience. What should he do? At that moment, Luo Wuming asked Yifeng, How many fragments of underworld sword intent did you use on the dog? Yifeng hesitated before answering, Not many. Just about 10,000 pieces. The moment those words left his mouth, Luo Wuming, Luo Chenxue, Old Bai, and Old Xia all turned to stare at him fiercely. They looked as though they wanted to tear him apart on the spot. 10,000 pieces? Luo Wuming's voice was filled with disbelief. You're insanely wasteful. Something so precious, something everyone desires, and you gave it all to a dog. Yifeng defended himself sheepishly. I'm sorry, but in his heart he thought smugly, I'd do it again if I had the chance. Sensing that Luo Chenxue was on the verge of losing control and slapping him to death, Luo Wuming stepped in. Chenxue, let me take him away before you do something you'll regret. Grabbing Yifeng, Luo Wuming led him off. Where are we going? Yifeng asked curiously. Star Soul Sect was only established for Chenxue to hone her temperament, Luo Wuming explained. The real sect backing her is the Star Extreme Sect. At that moment, Luo Wuming was leading Yifeng toward the Star Extreme Sect, planning for him to join the senior brothers there. As they made their way through the heavenly Dao battlefield, Yifeng seized an opportunity to ask, Master, is the Star Extreme Sect powerful? Do they need any assistance? Are the sect members well-fed? Perhaps I could gift everyone some spiritual stones to spend. The more Yifeng spoke, the more irritated Luo Wuming became. Finally, he snapped, spinning around to glare at him. Shut up. Our Star Extreme Sect is a holy land, very wealthy, and doesn't need your concern. That night, they stopped at an inn. Yifeng, excited for what the next day might bring, eagerly looked forward to seeing what extravagant item he could spend his resources on. The following morning, as soon as he woke, Yifeng hastily opened his system. Today's wasteful item was displayed: 100,000 high-grade spiritual stones. Relieved, he thought that shouldn't be too hard to spend. Next, Yifeng decided to try drawing a martial skill. Specifying an upper-tier human-level martial skill, he spent 100 wasteful points and obtained the Fire Dragon Fist technique. Feeling unusually lucky, Yifeng smiled. This kind of skill usually took him several tries to draw. But his smile froze moments later when the system revealed a problem. The Fire Dragon Fist required fire elemental spiritual energy to activate. Panic set in. Where am I supposed to find fire elemental spiritual energy? Yifeng thought, frustrated by his lack of spiritual roots. Sensing his plight, the system suggested transforming his existing spiritual energy into a fire attribute. To his surprise, Yifeng realized he could transform his spiritual energy into any elemental attribute. Intrigued, he prepared to test out the power of the Fire Dragon Fist. However, before he could begin, Luo Wuming's voice rang out. Yifeng, it's time to move. Reluctantly, Yifeng abandoned his test and joined Luo Wuming for the journey. As they traveled, Yifeng began throwing spiritual stones into the air from his flying sword, scattering them like rain over the lands below. Luo Wuming, flying ahead, turned back in disbelief. Yifeng, what are you doing? Yifeng responded with a straight face. I'm bestowing gifts from the sky, creating windfalls for the lucky. Visibly irritated, Luo Wuming snapped. Even if you have a lot, you shouldn't be this wasteful. One day, when you have nothing left, you'll regret it. Suddenly serious, Yifeng replied, Master, do you know what the most painful thing in life is? For someone devoted to swordsmanship, it's dying without comprehending the true essence of the sword. For an alchemist, it's dying without creating a legendary elixir. For a formation master, it's never crafting the ultimate formation before death. So for me, the most painful thing would be to die with money unspent. And with that, Yifeng continued tossing spiritual stones into the air as they traveled. Before long, they arrived at the Star Extreme sect. Compared to the desolate Star Soul sect, the Star Extreme sect was the epitome of luxury, brimming with resources and grandeur. After their arrival, Luo Wuming approached Manager Song, entrusting Yifeng to his care. In a few days, he explained, Yifeng will join the sect disciples heading to the heavenly Dao battlefield. With that, he departed swiftly, leaving Yifeng behind. Yifeng greeted Manager Song warmly. I'll be relying on your care and guidance, Manager Song, he said, all smiles. While waiting for his accommodations to be arranged, Yifeng overheard a commotion nearby. Curious, he inquired about it. Manager Song explained, Today is the day for the outer sect and inner sect disciples competition. Hearing this, Yifeng was intrigued and asked if he could watch the matches. At that exact moment, the system issued him a new mission. Take over a platform and defeat 100 opponents of the same realm. Success would reward him with 500 wasteful points, while failure would cost him the same amount. Excited by the challenge, Yifeng's eyes lit up. Without hesitation, he made his way to the battle platforms and claimed an empty one for himself. Seeing this, the Star Extreme sect disciples were puzzled. They could tell Yifeng wasn't one of them, and some speculated he might be from another sect, here to challenge them. Stepping onto the platform, Yifeng announced confidently, I am at the pinnacle of the Qi Activation Realm's 9th stage and the direct disciple of Luo Chenxue. Today, I'm here to hold this platform, and I hope my fellow disciples will show me some consideration. The crowd was stunned. The Sacred Lady's direct disciple? They murmured in astonishment. Moments later, a disciple named Men Yang stepped forward. From the crowd's reaction, it was clear Men Yang had a strong reputation. With a proud smile, Men Yang asked, I reached the pinnacle of the Qi Activation Realm's 9th stage in just 3 years. How long did it take you, brother? Yifeng replied casually, Not long at all. From the opening of my spirit sea to its pinnacle, it took me about 10 minutes. From there to the pinnacle of the Qi Activation Realm's 9th stage, perhaps a little over 20 minutes. Men Yang froze, utterly dumbfounded. What the hell are you talking about? Are you mocking me? Yifeng's words sent waves of disbelief through the crowd. None of the disciples believed him. Breaking through so many realms in just over 20 minutes? That was absurd. Some joked that they spent more time in the restroom than that. Many scoffed, dismissing Yifeng as arrogant. Some even questioned whether someone so brazen was worthy of being the sacred lady's direct disciple. But Yifeng paid no heed to their doubts. "Believe it or not," he said lightly. Menyang, unwilling to let the matter go, lunged forward to launch the first attack. This gave Yifeng the perfect opportunity to test his fire dragon fist. In an instant, a fiery apparition of a dragon materialized, stunning everyone watching. Menyang, in particular, was shocked by the sudden display of power. With no chance to escape, Menyang summoned his long sword and slashed at the fiery dragon. A massive disturbance erupted across the dueling platform, even affecting the bystanders. But no matter what Menyang tried, he couldn't withstand Yifeng's overwhelming surge of spiritual energy. A disciple in the crowd pointed and exclaimed, "The fiery dragon hasn't disappeared, it's still chasing him." Panicking, Menyang shouted, "How the hell do you even fight this? I want to go home to my mom." Meanwhile, Yifeng stood relaxed on the platform, striking what he thought was a cool pose. With a smirk, he chanted, "Fire Dragon Fist," and just like that, multiple fiery dragons manifested, each more dazzling than the last. As fiery apparitions emerged, all glaring ominously at Menyang, the terrified disciple cried out, "Where did this monster come from?" In sheer panic, Menyang decisively jumped off the platform, admitting defeat without hesitation. Yifeng, brimming with the confidence of a martial arts master, struck a heroic pose and declared, "Who's next? I want to defeat 100. At that moment, Yifeng was having the time of his life, reveling in the euphoria of battle. With his seemingly infinite spiritual energy, he recklessly deployed the Fire Dragon Fist again and again, resulting in massive explosions across the arena. The chaos frightened all the disciples, sending them fleeing in terror. Watching this, Manager Song buried his face in his hands and groaned, "I shouldn't have brought this guy here." He couldn't help but lament the extensive damage to the sex properties. But Yifeng couldn't have cared less about Manager Song's concerns. Caught up in the thrill of a fantasy world come to life, he was completely immersed in his battle frenzy. Realizing the situation was spiraling out of control, Manager Song immediately ordered over 200 disciples, all at the 9th peak of the Qi activation realm, to subdue Yifeng. The disciples were stunned. "Is this guy really planning to take on over 200 of us?" One muttered in disbelief. Another chimed in, "No wonder the sacred lady took him as her direct disciple. He's terrifyingly powerful. If he wins this battle, he'll surely secure a place in the dragon ranking in the future." Others eagerly anticipated the outcome, thinking if he wins, he'll become famous overnight. But if he loses, he'll be utterly humiliated. Manager Song took the lead, commanding the disciples to raise a spiritual barrier. A massive energy shield materialized in front of them, shimmering with power. Yifeng's eyes widened. "They can even do that?" he muttered in surprise. "Even though I have abundant spiritual energy, I don't think I can break that with just my human-level martial art technique." Determined, Yifeng began drawing more powerful martial techniques from his system. Spending 700 wasteful points, he acquired the 9 Radiance Thunder Lotus, an Earth-level superior martial technique. Still not satisfied, he drew again. This time, after expending 900 points, he obtained the Water Dragon chant. Even then, Yifeng felt it wasn't enough. After one more draw, costing another 700 points, he acquired the Wind Whirls, Raging Sands technique. Now armed with techniques from multiple elements, Yifeng finally felt ready. He initiated his assault with the 9 Radiance Thunder Lotus. In an instant, a radiant lotus-shaped apparition materialized overhead, its thunderous energy crackling in the air. Before the disciples could recover from their shock, Yifeng unleashed the Water Dragon chant, summoning a powerful water dragon apparition. The disciples panicked. "What kind of monster is he?" one shouted. "He possesses not only the fire element but also thunder and water. That means he has 3 spiritual roots." But before they could process this, Yifeng struck again, unleashing the Wind Whirls, Raging Sands technique. The wind attribute attack merged with the other techniques, creating a devastating elemental combination. The overwhelming force of the combined techniques was directed straight at the spiritual barrier. Chaos erupted among the disciples as they realized they couldn't fend off such an attack. Manager Song stood frozen, dumbfounded. Not just 3 spiritual roots. Could he actually possess 4 spiritual roots? Then, Yifeng shocked everyone yet again by unleashing another thunder attribute technique. The protective barrier, which had been formed by 200 disciples, shattered under the onslaught. Letting out a triumphant laugh, Yifeng stood victorious as all 200 disciples voluntarily surrendered, realizing they stood no chance against him. Even the overseer, hovering midair, was left speechless. Initially, he had wanted to suppress Yifeng's momentum, but now, seeing Yifeng's seemingly limitless spiritual energy and his mastery of several Earth-level superior martial techniques, the overseer couldn't help but think, this young man will surely rank in the top 10 of the dragon ranking in the future. But Yifeng wasn't done. Who else dares to challenge me? He taunted, looking around. The disciples were utterly flabbergasted, wondering how he still had so much energy left. Meanwhile, inside the sect's grand hall, Luo Wuming had summoned several core disciples. The disciples looked puzzled, unsure of why they had been gathered so suddenly. Luo Wuming stepped forward and began explaining, I wanted to inform you that soon, you will have a new junior disciple. However, he is currently only at the 9th peak of the Qi activation realm. You'll need to take extra care of him. At this, the room erupted in animated discussions. Our Star Extreme sect is one of the top sects on the Xiantian continent, one disciple exclaimed. To become a core disciple, one must have exceptional talent, comprehension, and spiritual roots. Another, Qin Haoyu, asked skeptically, Master Luo, can you tell us about the exceptional qualities of this new junior disciple? Luo Wuming sighed and spread his hands. All you need to remember is that he is very rich, extremely rich, and he spends a lot, excessively so. The room fell silent, the disciples staring in disbelief. What? That's considered a special quality? One blurted out. No matter how rich he is, he couldn't possibly be wealthier than our sect, right? Another muttered. Master, you must be joking with us. But Luo Wuming wasn't joking. You'll understand after spending some time with him, he said with resignation. How can anyone compare to him? Finally, the group couldn't hold back and turned to Luo Wuming, their voices tinged with a mix of confusion and accusation. Sect Master, are you sure this is the same junior disciple you said had no special qualities? Luo Wuming was silent for a moment, feeling cornered. Truthfully, he hadn't been aware of the extent of Yifeng's capabilities. He sighed, unsure of how to respond. Qin Haoyu, one of the core disciples, inquired, Manager Song, where did the junior disciple go? Manager Song replied, he went back to his residence in the Inner Peaks, 111th courtyard. Hearing this, the core disciples couldn't hold back any longer. They hurried off to meet this remarkable junior disciple, leaving Luo Wuming standing behind. Manager Song, ever the gossip, couldn't resist asking Luo Wuming, Sect Master, are you planning to accept Yifeng as the 6th core disciple of the sect? Hearing this, Luo Wuming's face darkened, and he warned sternly, Manager Song, you must not inform the 3 ancestral elders about this. Yifeng is my daughter's personal disciple, and no one can take him away. Manager Song, spreading his hands in a helpless gesture, replied, even if I don't tell them, it's pointless. Yifeng's achievements have already spread throughout the sect. Not just the 3 ancestral elders, but even the 4 great ancestral elders already know. Luo Wuming sighed heavily, muttering, this is going to be troublesome. Let's see how the kid decides. Thanks for watching, guys. Comment Flamingo and subscribe for the next part. Meanwhile, Yifeng was lounging lazily, basking in the sun when several figures suddenly appeared in front of him. Startled, he bolted upright. Who are you guys and what do you want? It was Qin Haoyu and the other core disciples, who had hurried to meet him. Yifeng blinked, bewildered. What do you all want? One by one, the figures introduced themselves. Eldest brother Qin Haoyu, second sister Si Kantian, third brother Zhao Anming, fourth brother Xing Fei, and fifth sister Du Tanyu. Yifeng frowned in confusion. Aren't I Luo Qinchua's personal disciple? Why am I suddenly the junior of the entire sect? Qin Haoyu, looking amused, explained. It was sect master Luo Wuming's arrangement. Yifeng finally understood. The two roles weren't conflicting. He was both Luo Qinchua's chief disciple and the sixth core disciple of the Star Extreme sect. Yifeng's mind whirred with thoughts of how to impress his new senior brothers and sisters. Consulting the system, he asked, "It's my first time meeting them. Should I prepare some gifts? Considering their exceptional talents, wouldn't it be fitting to give them at least 100,000 high-quality spiritual stones each?" The system processed his idea for a moment and then confirmed that it was acceptable. Yifeng could barely contain his excitement. Meanwhile, the core disciples mistook his expression for awe at their unparalleled abilities. Fifth sister Du Tanyu, especially, was moved to tears. "Finally," she cried, "I'm not the youngest anymore. I finally have a junior I can bully." Yifeng, however, wasn't paying attention to her emotional outburst. Turning to the group, he announced, "Brothers and sisters, since it's our first time meeting, please accept a small token of my appreciation." With a flourish, he handed each of them a storage ring. The group was stunned. Qin Haoyu, the first to inspect his gift, opened the ring and froze. Inside were 100,000 high-quality spiritual stones. The others followed suit, each finding the same in their rings. They were utterly speechless. Convention dictated that senior disciples should give gifts to their juniors. But here was their junior brother handing out 100,000 high-quality spirit stones as if it were nothing. Their minds went back to Luo Wuming's words. This junior disciple is rich, incredibly rich. Yifeng, meanwhile, grinned smugly as his system notified him of the results. His lavish spending had earned him 200 wasteful points and 100 enlightenment pills. Checking the information, he found that the enlightenment pill was a rankless pill that granted 20 minutes of immediate enlightenment upon consumption. However, the system also noted that reward items like this couldn't be used to earn wasteful points. Yifeng was slightly disappointed. "So I can't use these pills to spend lavishly?" he muttered to himself. Still, he decided to share the pills with his senior brothers and sisters. Handing one to each of them, he explained the effects. "An enlightenment pill?" One of them exclaimed in disbelief. "Does this really work as you say?" Yifeng nodded. "Just try it. You'll see." Although skeptical, the core disciples trusted their junior brother enough to consume the pills. Moments later, all 5 of them entered a state of enlightenment. At that moment, Luo Wuming walked in and was startled by the sight. Just as he opened his mouth to ask what was going on, Yifeng interrupted to explain the effects of the enlightenment pills. Seeing his disciples cultivating in Yifeng's room, Luo Wuming felt a burning desire for the pills himself. Unable to hold back, he asked for some. Yifeng handed him 5 pills but added, "The rest are reserved for my pet dog." Hearing this, Luo Wuming nearly exploded. "You're giving such a precious pill to a dog? Have you lost your mind?" Yifeng shrugged helplessly. "They're valuable, sure, but they don't earn me points for wasteful spending, so they're useless to me." Determined to stop Yifeng from wasting the pills on his dog, Luo Wuming offered to buy the remaining pills, even suggesting a family discount. But Yifeng refused firmly. "I have to feed my dog, or I'll feel bad." Imagining his dog rejecting the pills outright made Yifeng chuckle internally. Seeing Yifeng's unwavering stance, Luo Wuming could only sigh in defeat. Finally, Luo Wuming informed Yifeng that the 5 great ancestral elders wanted to meet him and might even consider taking him as a disciple. "Make your decision carefully," he warned. Later, they arrived at the cave mansion in the back mountain, where Luo Wuming led Yifeng to pay his respects to the 5 great ancestral elders. The great ancestral elder Luo Chenqing was the first to speak. Facing a solo battle against 200 peers of the same realm, mastering 3 advanced Earth-level techniques, all while possessing a quad spirit root, such a prodigy should be cultivated with all our might. The other ancestral elders nodded in agreement as they surrounded Yifeng to examine him. Moments later, they confirmed that Yifeng was indeed at the peak of the Qi activation realm and had a spirit sea of astonishing magnitude. However, they were completely stupefied when they discovered that he had no spirit roots, not a single one. Yet, somehow, Yifeng was capable of wielding 4 types of spiritual Qi as if he did. The ancestral elders were in disbelief. How is this possible? How can he manifest 4 elemental spiritual chis without any spirit roots? How did he form a spirit sea, let alone cultivate without them? Ifeng, unfazed by their shock, shrugged and casually replied, I don't know. Whenever I want to cultivate, the ambient spiritual chi just rushes into my body. Even though I lack spirit roots, I can somehow transform my spiritual chi into various elemental forces. To demonstrate, Ifeng gathered chi between his hands, letting it alternate between thunder, fire, water, wind, and other elemental forces. The display left the 5 great ancestral elders utterly dumbfounded. Such an occurrence was unheard of in their lifetimes, and it defied all logic. While the elders were frozen in shock, Ifeng, instead of being moved by their reactions, was preoccupied with his own thoughts. How should I spend lavishly this time? Considering their esteemed positions, he thought of gifting each elder 1 million high-quality spiritual stones. But when he consulted the system, it immediately dismissed the idea, deeming it insufficient to qualify as wasteful spending. Annoyed at being looked down upon by his system, Ifeng decided to up the ante. Fine, what about 1 million top-quality spiritual stones per elder? This time, the system approved, and Ifeng boldly made his move. Taking out 5 storage rings, Ifeng presented them to the elders. Esteemed ancestral elders, I came here in a rush and didn't prepare any significant gifts. Please accept these 1 million top-quality spiritual stones each as a token of my respect. I hope you don't find it too meager. The 5 ancestral elders stared blankly at the rings, utterly bewildered. Were they really holding 1 million top-quality spiritual stones in their hands? Could a Chi activation realm disciple genuinely own such a treasure? Seeing their frozen expressions, Luo Wuming stepped forward and seized the moment. Elders, he said slyly, haven't you been stuck at cultivation bottlenecks for decades? Here, I brought you 5 enlightenment pills. Don't ask questions, just take them, and you'll re-enter a state of enlightenment. The ancestral elders, already reeling from the spiritual stones, were hit with yet another shock. Enlightenment pills? These pills were beyond rare, and the chance to enter a state of enlightenment was priceless. They hadn't been this astonished in centuries. Meanwhile, Ifeng looked at Luo Wuming with mild frustration, thinking, Master, are you trying to steal my thunder and my wasteful spending opportunities? Luo Wuming only smirked smugly in response, as if to say, this is what you get for not selling me any pills earlier. Moments later, the 5 great ancestral elders decisively swallowed the pills. Immediately, waves of enlightenment began to radiate from them. Seeing their concentration, Luo Wuming gestured to Ifeng, let's leave them to it. About 30 minutes later, the elders awoke from their states of enlightenment. While they felt invigorated, they were just a fraction short of breaking through their bottlenecks. Determined, Luo Qianqing stepped forward and asked Ifeng directly, how many more enlightenment pills do you have? Ifeng opened his mouth to answer, but Luo Wuming quickly beat him to it. Smirking mischievously, he said, Ifeng still has quite a few left, but he plans to feed them to his dog. The entire room fell silent. The 5 great ancestral elders stared in shock. What? Feed them to a dog? Luo Qianqing stepped closer to Ifeng, his tone stern but measured. Ifeng, our ancestral teachings prohibit us from bullying the younger generation. The enlightenment pills are yours, and you may do with them as you wish. But feeding them to a dog is absolutely unacceptable. Under the intense gazes of the 5 elders, Ifeng felt his heart pounding. Feeling slightly guilty, he muttered, I still have 90 enlightenment pills left. Indeed a bit wasteful to feed them all to the dog. How about I keep 40 of them? Luo Qianqing, hearing Ifeng's attempt at compromise, sighed and suppressed his frustration. Very well, he said. That's reasonable. Turning his sharp gaze toward Luo Wuming, he continued, Sect Master, shouldn't you be controlling your disciples' wasteful tendencies? Caught off guard by the sudden shift in blame, Luo Wuming could only give a bitter smile. Great ancestral elder, you can't blame me. This kid is completely uncontrollable. He once used a 9-leaf soul-returning herb for a foot soak and fed underworld sword intent fragments to his dog. At this, Ifeng's face turned red with embarrassment. Was it really necessary for his master to expose everything? Sure enough, upon hearing these outrageous deeds, Luo Chenqing was so infuriated that he spat blood. Ifeng, feeling awkward, thought to himself, was that really necessary? Regaining his composure, Luo Chenqing tried one last time to reason with Ifeng. Please, he implored, don't feed the enlightenment pills to the dog. It would be better if you kept them for yourself. Ifeng was astonished. Why are the sects in this world so easygoing? He thought. From the novels he had read in his previous life, anyone possessing such treasures would be swarmed by enemies and reduced to ashes. Yet here, his beautiful master, who claimed she wouldn't guide him, had spent a fortune on clear, mysterious pills for him. Old Bai, who always joked about being lazy, constantly helped him with enthusiasm. Even his senior brothers and sisters, whom he had defeated during the Martial Platform event, seemed proud of his accomplishments. Now, the 5 great ancestral elders were treating him with kindness and reason. Reflecting on all this, Ifeng felt an unexpected sense of contentment. Smiling to himself, he decided that he would continue being a comfortable prodigal son within the sect. To express his gratitude, he handed over 70 enlightenment pills to the sect but kept 20 for himself. At that moment, Ifeng resolved that for him to live comfortably as a spendthrift, the sect would need to grow stronger. Ifeng thought to himself, it's not such a bad idea to give a few treasures to the sect. Seeing this, Luo Chenqing's expression turned warm, and he repeated, Good, good, good. 3 times, his tone filled with satisfaction. It's truly the sect's fortune to have such a disciple. Afterwards, Luo Chenqing gave Luo Wuming a knowing glance and said, Luo Wuming, you're fully aware of Ifeng's contributions to the sect. As long as he doesn't violate the ancestral teachings, you have no right to punish him. Understand? At this, Luo Wuming adopted the stance of a scolded junior, hurriedly nodding his head. Understood, he replied, his tone respectful yet resigned. With this, Ifeng's meeting with the 5 great ancestral elders concluded. Luo Wuming, walking out with Ifeng, couldn't help but feel triumphant. Even if the great ancestral elder hadn't said anything, he mused smugly, I wouldn't dare mistreat Ifeng. After all, I consider him my personal god of wealth. Suddenly, Ifeng, fiddling absent-mindedly with his storage ring, accidentally pulled out a golden silkworm star shining stone. The radiant mineral immediately caught the attention of the ancestral elders, who had yet to leave. Ifeng laughed sheepishly, saying, Oh, it slipped out accidentally. It's just a broken stone, no need to mind it. Luo Wuming's face turned bright red with rage. You rascal! Didn't you say you didn't have any star shining stones? He roared. Pouting, Ifeng replied, It's just a broken stone, master. Why are you making such a big deal out of this? At that moment, the 5th great ancestral elder, Qi Yunshan, an expert artifact refiner, stepped forward, his eyes glinting with excitement. No matter the cost, I wish to buy it, he declared, his tone practically pleading. For Qi Yunshan, the golden silkworm star shining stone was one of the most coveted materials for artifact refiners, a dream material he had sought for years. But Ifeng flatly refused. I don't have many of these right now, he explained nonchalantly. I need them to pave the floor of my hut's toilet. The room went silent. Luo Wuming looked as though he might vomit blood on the spot, while the other ancestral elders seemed moments away from fainting. Qi Yunshan, forcing a polite smile, asked hesitantly, Ifeng, do you realize how crucial this star shining stone is for artifact refiners? I don't know about that, Ifeng replied casually, but I do know that when I gather enough of these stones to build my toilet, it'll be magnificent. Just imagine it dazzling golden light everywhere. Luo Wuming exploded in frustration. You're gathering more of them? Don't you know these are spirit minerals that can absorb tribulation lightning? What are you planning to do? Hide in your toilet when you face tribulation. However, Qi Yunshan's eyes lit up as a new idea dawned on him. Wait, you said you could obtain more star shining stones? He asked eagerly. Yeah, Ifeng replied with a shrug. After I finish building my toilet, if there are any leftovers, I'll give them to you. At this, Qi Yunshan clapped his hands and exclaimed, Good, 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 startling everyone. His sudden enthusiasm confused not only Yifeng but also the other elders and Luo Wuming. Luo Chanqing frowned, pulling Qi Yunshan aside. "Old Fifth, have you gone mad? That's the golden silkworm star shining stone, and you're okay with him using it to build a toilet?" The other elders and Luo Wuming nodded in agreement, equally baffled. Qi Yunshan waved them off. "Are you all clueless? Once Yifeng finishes building the toilet, can't we just hide in there during tribulation lightning? A single star shining stone can absorb so much. Imagine if the entire toilet is built of it. We can just squat and succeed in crossing the tribulation. Isn't that brilliant?" Luo Wuming stared at Qi Yunshan in awe. "Wait, is that actually possible? Could a toilet really replace life-saving treasures during a tribulation?" At this point, Yifeng shivered slightly, sensing that they were plotting something unsavory involving his toilet. After agreeing with Yifeng's golden toilet plan, Luo Chanqing turned to Luo Wuming and gave him strict instructions. Ensure that God of Wealth Yifeng is safe during the upcoming Heaven's Way battlefield expedition. However, Yifeng had other ideas. "I'd prefer to go alone," he said confidently. "In the Qi activation realm, I'm practically invincible." Luo Wuming immediately tried to dissuade him. "This isn't a child's game. Listen to the great ancestral elder and take some senior brothers with you for protection." Luo Chanqing considered Luo Wuming's argument, but Yifeng quickly interjected. "If there are too many people, my cultivation experience will be meaningless." Finally, Luo Chanqing relented. "Fine, go alone," he said, "but be extremely careful and trust no one. Rest in the sect for the next 2 days. On the 3rd day, head to the Heaven's Way battlefield teleportation tower." Yifeng nodded, satisfied. He had his reasons for wanting to go solo. Taking a large group of senior brothers to the battlefield would likely mean he'd have to protect them instead of the other way around. Besides, in case of real danger, he could always rely on his unbeatable godly wealthy guard squad. In fact, he was quite eager to see his guard squad in action. After paying his respects to the ancestral elders, Yifeng returned to his residence, where several senior brothers and sisters were waiting for him. They greeted him enthusiastically. "Junior brother, do you have any more of those enlightenment pills you gave us earlier?" Yifeng noticed the gleam of excitement in their eyes. It seemed they had been deeply impressed by the effects of the enlightenment pills, and despite the shamelessness of it, they couldn't resist asking for more. Yifeng frowned. "I don't have many left," he said. "I originally had 90, but I already gave 70 to the ancestral elders." Senior Sister Xia Tian stepped forward, her tone turning sweet and coquettish. "Can't you spare just one more for me? Please, junior brother?" she said, adding a playful meow at the end to emphasize her plea. But Yifeng was unmoved. "I really can't give any more," he said firmly. "I need to keep some for my dog." Hearing this, the senior brothers and sisters were left dumbfounded. Even the great ancestral elder couldn't get the remaining pills, and here Yifeng was saving them for a dog. Sighing, the group could only give up, their expressions tinged with regret. Sensing their disappointment, Yifeng reminded them, "Why are you all so upset? Remember, I've already handed over 70 enlightenment pills to the sect. As core disciples, aren't those pills reserved for you all?" Upon hearing this, their spirits immediately lifted. The eldest senior brother, Chen Haoyu, thanked Yifeng profusely before rushing off with the others to claim their share. Watching them leave, Yifeng sighed and muttered, "At least fix my roof before you go." Yifeng leaned back lazily, pulling out a glass of red wine. With a dramatic swirl of the glass, he mused aloud, "Ah, the life of a lavish prodigal, monotonous, tasteless, yet undeniably luxurious." The system, apparently surprised, chimed in. "Where did you even get that wine?" However, Yifeng's moment of indulgence was interrupted by a sudden realization. Hadn't received any rewards for the premium spiritual stones he had gifted the 5 great ancestral elders earlier. Feeling perplexed, he asked the system why. The system explained matter-of-factly, "The ancestral elders do not plan to keep the spiritual stones. They intend to return them to you. Since the extravagant action hasn't been completed, no reward has been issued." Yifeng sighed in exasperation. Have they got rust in their brains? Who turns down money? At that moment, Luo Chanqing walked in. "Yifeng, I hope I'm not disturbing your rest, he said with a polite smile. Speaking of the devil, Yifeng turned to greet him, hiding his annoyance. Ah, great ancestral elder, no disturbance at all. Without waiting for Luo Chanqing to say anything, Yifeng quickly added, Great ancestral elder, please use the premium spiritual stones I gave you as you wish. Don't be shy, I have plenty more. You're not here to return them to me, are you? Luo Chanqing sighed and took out 5 storage rings. The Star Extreme sect doesn't need spiritual stones from its disciples at the moment. Our reserves are sufficient, so you should keep them. Yifeng immediately declined. While I may not know exactly how many spiritual stones the sect has in reserve, I'm confident that the total amount doesn't even come close to what I possess. If the sect ever needs spiritual stones, just ask me, I can guarantee an endless supply. Seeing Yifeng's insistence, Luo Chanqing decided to test him further. In that case, he said, narrowing his eyes, do you have any spiritual crystals? Yifeng tilted his head, puzzled. Spiritual crystals? What's that? Luo Chanqing explained patiently. Spiritual crystals are the primary source of power for the sect's protective array. Unfortunately, the sect has been running low on them lately. Obtaining spiritual crystals has become increasingly difficult in recent years, especially from the Heaven's Way battlefield. If you can provide some, it would be a great help. Yifeng's eyes lit up. Isn't this another perfect opportunity for me to be wasteful? Turning to the system, he asked, Look system, how good is the Star Extreme sect to me? They're like family. So, can I give them 100 billion premium spiritual crystals? The system was momentarily stunned before replying sharply, Host, are you kidding me? 100 billion spiritual crystals would power the sect for centuries. 100 million at most. Yifeng frowned and retorted, That's not right. System, these people are like my loved ones. Shouldn't we be more generous? The system remained unmoved. 100 million is the cap. Take it or leave it. Yifeng sighed, but he hadn't really expected the system to agree to his outrageous suggestion. At least it's not completely heartless, he thought, deciding to settle for the 100 million spiritual crystals the system approved. The system promptly dispatched 100 million top-grade spiritual crystals into Yifeng's storage ring. Meanwhile, Luo Chanqing had no idea what Yifeng was up to. He didn't believe Yifeng could possibly produce spiritual crystals, as they were exclusive to the Heaven's Way battlefield. Preparing to leave, Luo Chanqing said, Well, if you can't provide spiritual crystals, I won't bother you further. However, Yifeng stopped him. Wait, great ancestral elder. I have 100 million top-grade spiritual crystals here. Luo Chanqing froze. His face twisted into a mix of shock and disbelief as he stared at Yifeng. What did you just say? I have 100 million top-grade spiritual crystals, Yifeng repeated casually. Luo Chanqing began to doubt his own sanity. Am I hallucinating? How could a mere Qi activation realm disciple possess such a vast number of spiritual crystals? Even if the entire Star Extreme sect were sold off, they wouldn't be able to amass such wealth. To confirm, Luo Chanqing probed Yifeng's storage ring with his spiritual sense. What he saw left him utterly flabbergasted. The ring was filled to the brim with countless top-grade spiritual crystals, stacked neatly like mountains. Even with his years of experience, Luo Chanqing couldn't maintain his composure. This ring alone, he murmured, his voice trembling. Its value surpasses that of the entire sect by an unimaginable margin. Yifeng smirked, noting the elder's stunned expression. Truly, no one can resist the allure of immense wealth, he thought smugly. Finally regaining his voice, Luo Chanqing stammered, Yifeng, are you sure you want to hand over these spiritual crystals to the sect? Of course, Yifeng replied cheerfully. But I suggest the sect keep the protective array active at all times. Whenever you run out of spiritual crystals, just ask me for more. Luo Chanqing was nearly driven to madness by Yifeng's casual extravagance. Absolutely not. These premium spiritual crystals are far too precious. Unless the sect is facing a life or death crisis, we can't waste them like this. Yifeng rolled his eyes. Great ancestral elder, you're thinking too small. A mere 100 million crystals are just a drop in the bucket for me. If I can produce 100 million now, I can produce even more in the future. Just use them without worry. Luo Chanqing stared at Yifeng, completely overwhelmed. You're serious? You really have more? Absolutely, Ifeng replied confidently. The sect can use them as they see fit. Faced with such audacity, Luo Chanqing made the boldest decision of his life. From that day onward, the 9-star sword formation, the Star Extreme Sect's protective array, would remain permanently active. Hearing this, Ifeng was momentarily stunned. Wait, the sect's protective array is the 9-star sword formation? Curious, he pulled out the reward he had just received. The enhanced 9-star sword formation secret manual. Great Ancestral Elder, take a look at this. Luo Chanqing took the manual and examined it closely. The more he read, the more astonished he became. This is the 9-star sword formation, but it's an enhanced version. Its power is 10 times stronger, though the consumption is also 10 times greater. Luo Chanqing looked at Ifeng with wide eyes. Ifeng, where did you get this? Ifeng waved him off. Great Ancestral Elder, don't ask. If you do, the answer will still be the same. I don't know. Ifeng understood the Great Ancestral Elder would naturally inquire about the origins of his treasures, but since he couldn't provide an explanation, he chose to divert the discussion altogether. Sensing Ifeng's evasion, Luo Chanqing refrained from pressing further. Instead, he solemnly pulled out an honorary elder token and declared, "From now on, you are an honorary elder of the Star Extreme Sect." Ifeng was baffled. Why am I suddenly an honorary elder? The Great Ancestral Elder calmly replied, Not just that, you'll now stand as an equal to the 5 Great Ancestral Elders. Even Luo Wuming must address you as Elder Yi whenever he sees you. Although the idea of outranking his own master amused Ifeng, he quickly declined the position. He didn't desire such a high-ranking status, knowing it would come with great responsibilities. His sole aim was a carefree life of extravagance. Moreover, he was Luo Chinchua's senior disciple. Accepting this title would make it awkward to face her. However, Luo Chanqing remained resolute. Without granting you this status, how can the sect justify your contributions? Don't worry, only the 5 Great Ancestral Elders and Luo Wuming will know of this title. It won't affect your daily life. Seeing the elders' determination, Ifeng relented but made his stance clear. Apart from providing resources, I won't involve myself in sect matters. Satisfied with his response, Luo Chanqing nodded. At that moment, Luo Wuming arrived, noticing the Great Ancestral Elder's presence. Elder, I was planning to take Ifeng to visit the Beast Peak Dash. Before he could finish, Luo Chanqing interrupted angrily. Is Ifeng someone you can address so casually? From today onward, address him as Elder Yi. He is now an honorary elder of the Star Extreme Sect, holding a rank equivalent to the 5 Great Ancestral Elders. Next time, old man, show proper respect when addressing him. Luo Wuming, caught completely off guard, could only nod repeatedly, though he cast a questioning glance at Luo Chanqing. How did Ifeng suddenly become an honorary elder? With a deadpan expression, Luo Chanqing explained, his contributions to the sect are immense. Even making him an honorary elder feels insufficient. Luo Wuming smirked knowingly and turned to Ifeng. Contributions, huh? Elder Yi, why don't you tell me how much did you spend to buy this title? Ifeng awkwardly replied, Master, perhaps you shouldn't call me elder. And as for the cost, well, it's 100 million top-grade spiritual crystals and the enhanced version of the 9-star sword formation secret manual. Hearing this, Luo Wuming was momentarily stunned. If that's the case, indeed, just making you an honorary elder feels like an insult. Not wanting the topic to drag on, Ifeng quickly shifted the conversation. Master, didn't you mention the Beast Peak? Let's go check it out. Meanwhile, back in the rear mountain, Luo Chanqing returned to his cave mansion, where the other ancestral elders were already waiting for him. They immediately asked, Big brother, did you return the spiritual stones? We can't afford to accept such an offering. Luo Chanqing sighed and shook his head. The others were baffled. Why didn't you return them? Have you lost your senses? It's not like we're short on spiritual stones. Sighing again, Luo Chanqing said helplessly, Not only did I not return them, but I also took additional benefits from Ifeng. Before the others could rebuke him, he reached into his storage and pulled out a ring, placing it on the table. Qi Yunshan, the fifth ancestral elder, frowned. Just how many spiritual stones are in that ring, big brother? With a deep sigh, Luo Chanqing corrected him. It's not spiritual stones, it's 100 million top-grade spiritual crystals. The fourth ancestral elder, Qing Xingfei, shakily picked up the ring. 100 million top-grade spiritual crystals. Just casually sitting here? She couldn't believe her eyes. All four ancestral elders were stunned. Qi Yunshan's eyes widened, and he exclaimed, with 100 million top-grade spiritual crystals, the Star Extreme sect could thrive without financial worries for centuries. However, Luo Chanqing added gravely, from today onward, the sect's protective formation will remain permanently active. The elders were flabbergasted. What, brother? Have you lost your mind? Is there some powerful sect plotting against us? Luo Chanqing sighed and imitated Yifeng's tone. You're all thinking too small. It's just a measly 100 million. If we use them up, we'll just get more. The ancestral elders were left unsettled. How did this brat manage to make us feel like paupers in just one day? Luo Chanqing then pulled out the enhanced 9-star sword formation manual Yifeng had gifted them. This is another benefit from Yifeng. Consumption and power are both increased tenfold. Even if someone at the peak of the 9th tribulation crossing realm attacks us, they'll either die or be severely injured. The elders were stunned into silence once more. At the beast peak, Luo Wuming was introducing Yifeng to the site. Inside these sealed caves are beasts of varying strengths. The further up the peak you go, the stronger the beasts. Each beast is kept sealed for a reason. Puzzled, Yifeng asked, why seal them? Why not just kill them outright? Luo Wuming explained, these beasts serve as life and death trials for our disciples. If disciples wish to leave the sect, they must first challenge these beasts. If they can't even defeat them, they'll be doomed in the outside world. Here, at least, they have a chance of survival. Hearing this, Yifeng grew eager. I'm heading to the Heaven's Way battlefield in a couple of days. Why not let me try one now as a warm-up? However, Luo Wuming immediately declined. These beasts are reserved for other disciples. With your strength, even a few hundred beasts of the same realm would be no challenge for you. It'd be a waste. Not giving up, Yifeng persisted. Then let me challenge a higher-ranked beast, maybe one from the merging spirit realm? Pretending not to hear him, Luo Wuming changed the subject. The weather's nice today, isn't it? Yifeng sighed. It seems Master's father won't pay attention to me anymore. At this point, Yifeng's prodigal points stood at 2,810. He realized he needed to make a significant move soon. A day had passed since his visit to the Beast Peak. Today, Yifeng had acquired the corpse of a purple thunder-mad lion, a beast of immense power. Unsure of its exact ranking or how to process its body, he decided to consult his senior brother, Chun Haoyu. Senior brother, how should I handle this beast's body? Yifeng asked. Chun Haoyu explained patiently, you can extract its essence blood using spiritual energy. The essence blood is extremely valuable, but it's only beneficial for those who practice body cultivation. Yifeng tilted his head. What exactly is body cultivation? Body cultivators refine their physical bodies through techniques that absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Chun Haoyu elaborated. Their combat power is terrifying, and the essence blood of powerful beasts like this one is their best cultivation resource. Curious, Yifeng raised another question. What if we just roast the beast and eat it? Chun Haoyu froze, staring at Yifeng with a baffled expression. Junior brother, where do you come up with these ideas? He asked, his voice tinged with disbelief. Despite his confusion, Chun Haoyu clarified, for lower realm beasts, roasting and eating them is fine, but for high-ranking beasts like this, directly consuming the flesh would be wasteful. You'd absorb less than 1% of the essence blood's power without proper extraction. Do we have any body cultivators in our sect? Yifeng asked, genuinely curious. Yes, Chun Haoyu nodded. The fifth ancestral elder, Chuyun Chan, is one. She's a body cultivator at the Tribulation Crossing realm. Just as Chun Haoyu prepared to launch into a lengthy story about Elder Chuyun Chan's past, Yifeng turned and walked away, uninterested in listening further. Watching him leave, Chun Haoyu furrowed his brows. wondering if Yifeng truly had the body of such a high-level beast and if he was actually planning to roast it. Yifeng headed straight to the dueling arena, drawing the attention of the surrounding disciples. Many assumed he was there to challenge them again, and some immediately lay down in surrender, convinced they couldn't defeat him. However, Yifeng had other plans. He leaped onto the stage and declared, "Let's not duel today. Instead, help me slice some meat. I'll treat you all to a barbecue." Under the astonished eyes of the crowd, Yifeng retrieved the massive purple thunder mad lion's corpse from his storage ring. The beast's immense size and weight shattered the newly repaired arena floor upon impact, leaving everyone dumbfounded. Standing atop the massive carcass, Yifeng called out, "Dear senior brothers and sisters, please help me slice this beast. I can't handle it alone." The disciples, thrilled by the idea of a barbecue, eagerly approached. However, they quickly encountered a problem. The purple thunder mad lion's hide was so tough that their weapons couldn't even scratch it. Worse, some of their weapons shattered upon contact, leaving the disciples distraught and mourning their broken tools. Seeing the predicament, Yifeng turned to his system for assistance. The system temporarily lent him a set of 100 daggers. However, upon seeing the rusty, battered daggers, Yifeng raised an eyebrow, doubting the system's intentions. "Can these really cut through?" he wondered, skeptical. With no other choice, he handed the daggers to the disciples. "Stop your attempts, use these daggers instead." The disciples hesitated, staring at the shabby weapons. "Will these actually work?" they muttered among themselves. But when one disciple tried using the dagger, the tough scales of the purple thunder mad lion sliced apart as easily as tofu. The crowd gasped in astonishment at the dagger's terrifying efficiency. Finally, Yifeng smiled in satisfaction. However, he soon noticed one of the disciples testing the dagger on their own arm. "Focus on the beast, not yourself," Yifeng scolded, exasperated. Still, he had to admit that the daggers were deceptively powerful. "If only I could squander points on these daggers," he thought wistfully. The system, however, shattered his hopes, reminding him that the daggers were merely on loan. If he failed to return them, a significant number of his spendthrift points would be deducted. "This system is so stingy," Yifeng muttered under his breath. He resigned himself to collecting the daggers once the feast was over. With the daggers in hand, the disciples swiftly dissected the purple thunder mad lion, turning its flesh into manageable portions. Soon, the meat was roasting over open flames, filling the air with a tantalizing aroma. The disciples gathered around the bonfire, savoring the delicacy. After all, this was high-grade monster meat, a treat most of them could only dream of tasting. Meanwhile, about 10 miles away from the Star Extreme sect, a muscular figure broke through the air. This was Luo Kai, a man boasting 8-pack abs and an imposing presence. As he approached, he murmured, "Luo Wuming, I'm here." It seemed the two were old acquaintances. However, upon noticing the active 9-star sword formation around the sect, Luo Kai frowned in confusion. "Is the Star Extreme sect under attack?" he wondered aloud. Yet, there was no sign of danger. Shrugging off his doubts, Luo Kai decided to test the formation's strength, assuming it was the same as before. But as he charged at it, he was met with an unexpected result. The formation's enhanced power flung him backward, leaving him utterly dumbfounded. "What the hell?" Luo Kai exclaimed, staring at the barrier in disbelief. "Who upgraded the 9-star sword formation to this level?" At that moment, Luo Wuming flew out from the sect, his expression exasperated. "Luo Kai, have you lost your mind? Can't you see the protective barrier is active? Why are you challenging it head-on?" Luo Kai scowled. "I came to see you. Who knew your 9-star sword formation had improved so much?" Wuming smirked. "Stop talking nonsense and tell me why you're here." Crossing his arms, Luo Kai finally revealed his purpose. "I've come to show off. This time, I struck it big in the Heavenly Dao battlefield. I managed to collect a whopping 80 top-grade spiritual crystals." Luo Wuming raised an eyebrow, unimpressed. "Is that all? I'm leaving." Luo Kai was stunned. "What kind of reaction is that? Shouldn't you be begging me for some crystals? Is there a powerful enemy attacking?" And who improved the sword formation to such a terrifying level? Luo Kai demanded, his face a mix of confusion and concern. Luo Wuming casually replied, "Oh, it's nothing serious. Recently, we've had too many spiritual crystals lying around, so we decided to burn through some of our stock. You should have felt the power of the formation, though. Even though its consumption has increased tenfold, my Star Extreme sect can afford it." Hearing this, Luo Kai's expression darkened as he exclaimed angrily, "You're showing off. How many spiritual crystals do you even have now? You just upgraded a defensive formation, and now you're acting so smug." Luo Wuming smiled faintly, his voice laced with mock humility. "Not that many, just about 100 million. It should last us a few months." Luo Kai's jaw dropped. He tried to appear calm, replying nonchalantly, "Oh, nothing much to say. I just came to have a drink and chat with you." But inside he was shaken. 100 million. Luo Wuming had never lied to him about matters like this, which meant it had to be true. 100 million spiritual crystals was a staggering fortune. Later, as Luo Kai followed Luo Wuming, still trying to process this information, a mouth-watering aroma wafted through the air. Luo Kai froze, his nose twitching. His expression changed dramatically as he muttered, "That smell. It can't be." Without warning, he bolted toward the source of the aroma like a man possessed. When he arrived, the scene before him left him completely stunned. A group of Star Extreme sect disciples was feasting around a massive bonfire. And the centerpiece of their feast? The roasted flesh of a purple thunder mad lion. "It really is the purple thunder mad lion," Luo Kai blurted out, unable to believe his eyes. This beast had survived 9 thunder tribulations, making it a creature on the brink of ascending to the upper realms. Yet here it was, roasted and served as a delicacy for disciples to enjoy. Luo Wuming, who had followed behind, was just as surprised. It survived 9 thunder tribulations, and now it's being roasted and eaten like common game, he murmured. Luo Kai grabbed Luo Wuming's arm, demanding an explanation. "Your disciples are roasting and eating the flesh of such a terrifying beast. When did the Star Extreme sect become so wealthy?" With a helpless sigh, Luo Wuming replied, "We're not rich at all. This is definitely that prodigal Yifeng's doing." Before Luo Kai could press further, something else caught his eye, something that made his heart skip a beat. One of the disciples, only at the Qi activation realm, was wielding what appeared to be a simple black dagger. Yet, with that dagger, he effortlessly sliced through the purple thunder mad lion's impenetrable scales as if they were nothing but tofu. Luo Kai's shock deepened. First, they're casually roasting a purple thunder mad lion, and now that. What kind of divine weapon is that dagger? Luo Kai turned to Luo Wuming, disbelief written all over his face. "Old friend, your sect feels so unfamiliar to me now." Luo Wuming was equally baffled. He had no idea what was going on either. Determined to get answers, he quickly sent a voice transmission to the 5 ancestral elders. "Come quickly. That Yifeng kid is squandering resources again. This time, it's the corpse of a purple thunder mad lion that survived 9 thunder tribulations. He's roasting it for the disciples to eat. If you don't come now, it'll all be gone." Luo Kai, overhearing this, asked in confusion, "Who's Yifeng? And why do you need the 5 ancestral elders? Can't you just deal with him yourself?" Luo Wuming sighed heavily. "I wish I could, but I can't. Yifeng isn't just the 6th core disciple of the sect. He's contributed 100 million top-grade spiritual crystals and even enhanced the 9-star sword formation. On top of that, he's now an honorary elder of the Star Extreme sect. Even I have to address him as Elder Yi." Luo Kai's jaw dropped. An honorary elder? A Qi activation realm disciple? What kind of monster was this Yifeng? Meanwhile, in the back mountain, Chuyunshan, the 5th ancestral elder and a body cultivator, overheard the news. Enraged, he roared, "Do you have any idea how important a beast that survived 9 thunder tribulations is to me?" Without hesitation, he stormed toward the scene, but the other ancestral elders managed to stop him in time. "Impulsiveness is the devil," advised Luo Chanqing, the great ancestral elder. "Old 5th, isn't it obvious? Such a high-level beast corpse is naturally important, especially for a body cultivator like you." It's probably even more valuable than an enlightenment pill. Chuyun Shan, his frustration boiling over, lamented. This is the only such beast corpse we've ever had in the sect, and half of it has already been roasted and eaten by the inner and outer disciples. The other ancestral elders shared his heartache. No wonder old Fifth is so upset, one muttered. If it were us, we'd feel the same way. Luo Chanqing, however, took a different approach. Let's go over and have a taste ourselves. Better to eat some than none at all. Moments later, Luo Wuming and Luo Kai were already feasting at the dueling ground, competing to see who could eat faster. Upon seeing this, the arriving ancestral elders were speechless. These two old geezers have even less shame than we do, one remarked. In the end, Luo Kai, being a body cultivator, easily outpaced Luo Wuming in their eating contest, earning cheers from the surrounding disciples. When the ancestral elders approached, they greeted Yifeng with mock indignation. Yifeng, why didn't you invite us old geezers to join the feast? Yifeng smiled politely. How could I not? If the ancestral elders are interested, please join us. Luo Kai couldn't help but tease the elders. How can such old geezers be so overlooked? No wonder they're complaining. And so, the ancestral elders joined the feast, relishing the rare delicacy. Chuyun Shan even expressed interest in taking the purple thunder mad lion skeleton, offering to clean it up for the sect. Seeing someone willing to handle the cleanup, Yifeng was naturally pleased. After the meal, Luo Wuming introduced his old friend Luo Kai to Yifeng. Though Luo Kai was already in awe of the prodigal disciple who had managed to append his understanding of the Star Extreme sect in a single day. Thanks for watching, guys. Comment Flamingo and subscribe for the next part. Yifeng had recently received a new visitor, Luo Kai, a body cultivation expert at the 4th level of the Tribulation Crossing realm. Yet, what left Yifeng puzzled was why his master's father, Luo Wuming, still addressed him as elder. Yifeng exchanged respectful greetings with Luo Kai, but even Luo Kai began calling him elder. Laughing, Yifeng said, "Since you're a friend of my master's father, you're naturally my senior." Hearing this, Luo Kai's mind spiraled in confusion. Why do you call Luo Wuming master's father, while he calls you elder? Your relationship is so complicated. Luo Wuming sighed and explained, "This kid is my daughter's senior disciple, so I'm his master's father. It's a long story." Before the topic could devolve further, Yifeng received a system reward for the lavish feast he had hosted with the Purple Thunder Mad Lion. The reward, 200 drops of essence blood from the Purple Thunder Mad Lion that endured the 9 heavenly Tao tribulations. Curious, Yifeng asked his system to explain the concept of the 9 heavenly Tao tribulations. The system clarified, when a cultivator or beast reaches the peak of the Tribulation Crossing realm's 9th level in the Xiantian continent and seeks to ascend to a higher realm, they must endure 9 heavenly Tao tribulations. These tribulations are far stronger than ordinary ones. Yifeng nodded, finally understanding. So, this is another level of strength after reaching the peak of the Tribulation Crossing realm. Luo Kai, now in high spirits from the earlier feast, approached Yifeng excitedly. "Thank you, nephew Yifeng. Without you, I'd never have tasted such a precious beast. But honestly, you wasted the essence blood of the Purple Thunder Mad Lion." Yifeng blinked, confused by Luo Kai's statement. As if on cue, the system transferred the reward essence blood into his inventory. Yifeng took it out and asked, "Senior, are you talking about this?" Luo Kai's eyes widened as he inspected it. "Yes, this aura is unmistakable. This essence blood was refined from the Purple Thunder Mad Lion." Generously, Yifeng offered some of the essence blood to Luo Kai but mentioned he would reserve a portion for his pet dog. Luo Kai's expression froze. "Dog? Is that a nickname for one of your friends?" Before Yifeng could reply, Luo Wuming interjected with a smirk. "No, it's not a nickname. It's an actual dog, a stray mutt, to be precise." Luo Kai's jaw dropped. "And this stray dog got to consume such priceless resources?" "It's true," Luo Wuming confirmed. "It even swallowed over 2009 pattern clear mysterious pills and is currently evolving into a beast." Unable to process this, Luo Kai muttered in disbelief, "You must be joking." Yifeng simply smiled and excused himself. Meanwhile, Luo Wuming seized the opportunity to drag Luo Kai to his residence, claiming he had something special to offer. Luo Kai reluctantly followed, still baffled. What kind of opportunity could your sect possibly have? Once back at his residence, Luo Wuming retrieved a small pill and handed it to Luo Kai. Suspicious, Luo Kai inspected it carefully. What is this? You're not trying to poison me, are you? Of course not, Luo Wuming replied with mock offense. This is an enlightenment pill. You've never seen one before, have you? Luo Kai was stunned. You're serious? This is real. Try it and you'll know, Luo Wuming said smugly. You'll thank me later. Without hesitation, Luo Kai swallowed the pill. Within moments, his mind entered a state of rapid clarity. He quickly sat down cross-legged, diving into a profound state of enlightenment. 20 minutes later, Luo Kai emerged from his trance, his face brimming with satisfaction. Told you, didn't I? Luo Wuming chuckled. That enlightenment pill was provided by Yifeng. Apart from the 70 he gave to the sect, he's keeping 20 to feed his dog. Luo Kai froze. Feed his dog? That's right. Oh, and did I mention Xiao Tianyu? He joined my daughter's Star Soul sect as an elder just to help Yifeng. And don't forget Bai Tianhong, who is now stationed there full-time because of him. Luo Kai silently rose to his feet. Without a word, he left the residence. Wait, where are you going? Luo Wuming called after him. We haven't even started drinking yet. Luo Kai paused briefly, his voice heavy. What's the point? I'm alone in this world. No family, no friends. I could have had a daughter like Luo Chinchua. Luo Wuming prepared to apologize, sensing he'd struck a nerve. But Luo Kai suddenly changed his tone. So, you never told me your daughter founded a sect. I've decided I'll join as an elder. Maybe I'll finally have a place to call home. Before Luo Wuming could respond, Luo Kai soared into the sky, heading straight for the Star Soul sect. Luo Wuming's face turned red with anger. So you're one of Yifeng's opportunities too? You shameless bastard. Come back here. Though he cursed and ridiculed his old friend, Luo Wuming secretly envied him. If not for his status as Master's father, he would have joined the Star Soul sect long ago. Later that day, Yifeng was in his room, bored out of his mind and humming a song. His peace was shattered when his senior brother, Chun Haoyu, kicked the door open with a bang. Little junior brother, Chun shouted furiously. I knew you were extravagant, but this is pure madness. Yifeng glanced at his broken door and sighed. Stay steady. Don't panic. Look, you broke my door again. Chun Haoyu ignored his complaint and stormed in. I visited the scripture vault earlier. Do you even know what the purple thunder mad lion is? It's a legendary beast with unimaginable value. And you roasted it like a common chicken. Do you realize the kind of backlash your actions could bring? Yifeng waved him off nonchalantly. I'm aware. Realizing he couldn't reason with Yifeng's wasteful ways, Chun Haoyu slumped in defeat. I give up. With your spending habits, I'll probably die of frustration by the time we return to the Star Soul sect. Without so much as a goodbye, Chun Haoyu staggered away, muttering to himself. Yifeng stared at his broken door in disbelief. He broke my door and just left like that. Unbelievable. My poor door. Finally, after patching up his door and preparing to sleep, the door was brutally kicked open once again, this time by the fifth ancestral elder, Chuyun Shan. Yifeng, are you asleep? He shouted as he barged in. Yifeng, resigned and already anticipating the elder's intentions, didn't waste any words. With a calm sigh, he directly handed over 10 drops of the purple thunder mad lion's essence blood as a token of respect. Chuyun Shan, after a brief moment of hesitation, accepted the essence apologetically. I'm so sorry for the intrusion, Elder Yi. I won't disturb your rest further. If you need anything, just let me know. With that, he decisively turned and left. Staring at his now shattered door yet again, Yifeng sighed. Why bother fixing it anymore? Maybe I should just change courtyards, he muttered. After shifting to a new courtyard, Yifeng finally enjoyed a good night's sleep. When morning came, he felt refreshed and ready for another day. Opening his system, he checked what extravagant item it had prepared for him this time. Today's product was mind-calming incense bundle of 100 sticks made from the legendary 10,000-year dark god black tree. The incense emitted a calming fragrance, said to double the effectiveness of training when burned. However, Yifeng wasn't interested in its training benefits. Instead, he wondered if it could help him sleep even better. Outside his courtyard, Luo Wuming and the 5 ancestral elders were staking out the area. Based on Luo Wuming's observations, Yifeng had a strange habit of indulging in luxury every morning, almost as if it were a daily ritual. Back at the Star Soul sect, he had fed his dog Underworld Sword in 10 fragments first thing in the morning. On the way to the Star Extreme sect, he had casually thrown away high-quality spiritual stones. Yesterday, he roasted and shared the Purple Thunder Mad Lion with the disciples, also in the morning. Luo Wuming rubbed his chin thoughtfully and said, I suspect that if this prodigal doesn't splurge on something extravagant every morning, his mood will be completely off for the day. The ancestral elders nodded in agreement. That does seem about right. Suddenly, Luo Wuming caught a faint whiff of a sweet fragrance wafting through the air. For a brief moment, he felt a sense of serenity. What's that smell? He murmured, his expression serious. Recognizing the aroma instantly, Luo Chanqing dashed forward without hesitation. That's mind-calming incense, and it's not the ordinary kind. With a resounding bang, Yifeng's new door was obliterated as the great ancestral elder burst into the room. Yifeng, jolted awake by the noise, was momentarily disoriented. Do you all have a vendetta against doors? He shouted in frustration. The great ancestral elder ignored the complaint, inhaling deeply as he approached the source of the fragrance. Yifeng, what kind of spiritual wood is this mind-calming incense made from? He asked with forced calmness. Yifeng, still groggy, casually replied, It's made from the 10,000-year dark god black tree. Luo Chanqing's face twitched as he nodded, pretending to remain indifferent. Ah, the 10,000-year dark god black tree. Not bad, quite good. But inwardly, Luo Chanqing was screaming. This is beyond good. This is priceless. Yifeng tilted his head, studying the elder's reaction. Are you sure it's just not bad? By that measure, the 10,000-year dark god black tree doesn't seem all that special. It doesn't even compare to some of the other extravagant items I've had before. Luo Chanqing struggled to maintain his composure, his heart aching as he watched Yifeng light stick after stick of incense. When Yifeng grew impatient with the slow burn, he even brought out a fire tray to burn multiple sticks at once. Luo Wuming whispered to the others, There are 100 of them. The ancestral elders exchanged pained glances. Watching Yifeng waste such a precious treasure so frivolously was agonizing. By the time all 100 sticks were burned, the entire courtyard was saturated with the calming aroma, and Yifeng peacefully went back to sleep. Luo Chanqing forced a smile, but inwardly, he was seething. This wasteful boy, burning 100 sticks of mind-calming incense just to sleep? Does he want to drive us to our graves? Outside the courtyard, the ancestral elders gathered to vent their frustrations. The second ancestral elder lamented, Forget the 10,000-year dark god black tree. I've never even seen a tree over 5,000 years old in the heavenly Tao battlefield. Luo Chanqing added, Moreover, I suspect that incense was made from the tree's core. It's not just about its age. But what can we do? It's Yifeng's possession. Out of sight, out of mind. I won't be coming back. I can't take this anymore. Another elder nodded solemnly. The treasures this boy wastes. It's beyond words. Despite their complaints, Luo Wuming spoke up with a wry smile. Why not just close your eyes and enjoy the ambience? If we can't stop him, we might as well reap the benefits. The elders paused, exchanging glances, before nodding in agreement. You're right. Later that morning, Yifeng woke up feeling more refreshed than ever. Checking his system, he saw his reward for burning the incense. 200 more sticks of mind-calming incense. Yifeng's eye twitched in frustration. Is this system messing with me? I just burned 100 sticks to show off, and now you're giving me 200 more. Feeling insulted, he decided to get rid of the new incense. Even the ancestral elders didn't seem to value it. This incense is ruining my reputation as a prodigal spender. Grabbing the bundle of incense sticks, he stormed outside, only to freeze in place at the sight of the 5 ancestral elders meditating just beyond his courtyard. Startled, Yifeng asked, What are you all doing here? Luo Chanqing explained with calm authority. True cultivators practice anywhere and everywhere. The highest state of cultivation is to follow one's heart. Hearing this, Luo Wuming discreetly gave him a thumbs up, impressed by the great ancestral elders' profound wisdom. Seizing the moment, Yifeng decided to offload the mind-calming incense onto the elders. Without a word, He casually dropped the bundle of incense sticks at their feet and retreated to his room. The ancestral elders froze, stunned into silence. Their eyes fixated on the 200 sticks of mind-calming incense now scattered on the ground. Luo Chanqing felt his pride take a blow. What just happened? Did this kid seriously drop such priceless incense like it's worthless trash? Luo Woming, after a brief moment of thought, seemed to realize the reason. Great ancestral elder, do you recall what you said earlier in front of Yifeng? You said the mind-calming incense was just not bad. And his expression changed right after that. Luo Woming reminded him. At this, Luo Chanqing's eyes widened as he recalled the moment. That's right. Suddenly, a thought dawned on him, but Luo Woming beat him to it. He must have taken your words to heart. He probably thinks the incense is worthless junk now because you dismissed it. That's why he threw it at us to deal with as we see fit. Frowning, Luo Chanqing knocked on Yifeng's door to confirm his suspicions. Elder Yi, would you like us to handle the mind-calming incense for you? Yifeng's casual voice came through the door. Thank you, great ancestral elder. Please get rid of that junk for me. Using it will only devalue me. Hearing this, Luo Chanqing's face twitched, but then he let out a mysterious smile. All right, let's go. Later, back in his cave dwelling on the back mountain, Luo Chanqing distributed the incense to the other ancestral elders, giving each of them 20 sticks. Luo Woming, standing nearby with an expectant expression, smugly hinted, "What about me? Where's my share?" Luo Chanqing calmly turned to him and said, "You get nothing." Then, with a decisive wave of his hand, he threw Luo Woming out. Stumbling outside, Luo Woming was dumbfounded. We were all in this together. Why am I the only one excluded? I would have settled for even 10 sticks. Inside the cave, Chuyun-chan pulled out a tattered outfit and grinned mischievously. Brothers, why don't we all become beggars? Every morning we can stake out Yifeng's place. No matter what treasures he brings out, we'll pretend they're mediocre. Although the word begging stung their pride, the suggestion immediately sparked agreement among the elders. If begging means treasures like this every day, one said, I'd happily lower myself. Luo Chanqing, however, saw through their facade. He knew these shameless old men weren't really concerned about begging, but were instead worried about Yifeng squandering valuable resources. As the elders plotted their begging strategy, Luo Chanqing approached Luo Woming outside the window. By the way, he reminded him, Yifeng will be heading to the Heavenly Dao battlefield tomorrow. You must ensure his safety. Luo Woming, regaining some composure, acknowledged the order. Understood. I will personally escort him to the Heavenly Dao teleportation tower. The next morning, Yifeng woke up feeling refreshed and immediately checked his system. His eyes gleamed as he saw the newest acquisition, a 10,000-piece set of second-class, 9th-rank Earth prisoner talismans. These talismans could trap enemies in a sturdy earthen prison. Unlike yesterday's mind-calming incense, this seemed practical and intriguing. Definitely not something to flaunt yet, Yifeng thought. This might come in handy in the Heavenly Dao battlefield. Meanwhile, Luo Chanqing was stealthily approaching Yifeng's residence. He chuckled to himself. The kid's leaving for the Heavenly Dao battlefield today. Maybe I can scrounge up some last-minute benefits before he goes. This time, he had deliberately avoided informing the other ancestral elders. After all, begging wasn't exactly something to be proud of, and as the eldest, he felt it was his duty to bear the shame alone. Unexpectedly, he bumped into the second ancestral elder, who was holding a large begging bowl. Luo Chanqing was taken aback. Old second, you're taking this too far, aren't you? Why didn't I think of bringing a bowl? The second ancestral elder, unbothered, suggested, Big brother, how about we split whatever we get today? 50-50. Luo Chanqing nodded. You're truly a good brother. Just then, they spotted another figure in the distance. Luo Chanqing squinted. Isn't that old third? Sure enough, the third ancestral elder approached, awkwardly holding a cracked bowl. Big brother, second brother, I hope you don't mind if I join in, he said sheepishly. The three looked at one another, embarrassment evident in their expressions. They hadn't expected to all have the same idea. Before they could process the situation, a slender, elegant leg emerged from behind a screen, causing the trio to freeze in shock. Their faces turned red. What kind of tactic is this? To their horror, it was the fourth ancestral elder, who had taken begging to an entirely new level by dressing in a seductive, tantalizing outfit. The three men were stunned. "Old Fourth, stop this nonsense. We're terrified," they pleaded. The fourth ancestral elder looked equally embarrassed. "I hadn't expected all of you to be here too." Surveying the chaotic scene, Luo Chanqing muttered, "If Old Fourth is here, then surely Old Fifth isn't far behind." The fourth ancestral elder gestured behind the courtyard. "Didn't he come early?" From behind the courtyard, Chuyun-chan stepped out, fully equipped for begging. He not only carried a broken bowl but was also dressed in tattered clothing, looking like a professional pauper. Luo Chanqing couldn't hold back his exasperation. "Old Fifth, why are you going to such ridiculous lengths? It's just begging after all." At this point, Luo Woming also approached stealthily, muttering to himself, "Yifeng always oversleeps. Today's no different." The comedic group of elders was assembled, each shamelessly prepared to beg for treasures. Moments later, Yifeng stepped out of his room, rubbing his eyes. His gaze fell on the spectacle before him, and after a long, bewildered pause, he muttered, "What the hell?" As he scanned the scene, his face shifted through a series of complicated expressions. Broken bowls? Tattered clothes? He couldn't wrap his head around it. Are the ancestral elders testing their emotional resilience? And in my courtyard of all places? Or are they competing to see who's the best beggar? His gaze drifted from the youthful, elegantly dressed fourth ancestral elder to the fifth ancestral elder, who had taken his beggar role a little too seriously, complete with dirt-smudged cheeks and an air of professional desperation. Finally, his eyes settled on Chuyun-chan, who looked the most pitiful of all. Moved by what he considered an act of profound dedication, Yifeng sighed deeply. Walking over to Chuyun-chan, he reached into his storage ring and placed 10 drops of great demon fairy blood into the elder's bowl. A tear of self-satisfaction welled up in Yifeng's eye. "Not only have I chosen the best beggar, but I've also donated generously. Truly, where can you find such a selfless and giving disciple like me?" Content with his noble act, Yifeng left in search of his master's father. Meanwhile, Chuyun-chan stared at the 10 drops of great demon fairy blood in his bowl, his face lighting up with joy. Bursting into triumphant laughter, he exclaimed, "I knew this method would work." But before he could make his escape, a large hand clamped down on his shoulder. He turned to find the other ancestral elders grinning mischievously. "Old Fifth," one of them said, "we share both the good times and the bad. We beg together, so you can't just run off with the loot." Chuyun-chan let out a resigned sigh. "If I'd known this would happen, I'd have run away sooner." Elsewhere, Yifeng strolled into the sect's main hall, where he was greeted by Luo Woming. "Did you see the ancestral elders this morning?" Luo Woming asked casually. Yifeng nodded earnestly. "I did." True to their stature as powerful beings, they were cultivating their minds and spirits by enduring the trials of a beggar's life. They didn't say anything, but I understood their intentions, so I gave the most pitiful-looking fifth ancestral elder 10 drops of great demon fairy blood. Luo Woming nearly choked. Cultivating their minds by pretending to be beggars. They were just begging from you, and who told you to carry so many treasures around? Sighing deeply, Luo Woming chose not to correct Yifeng's interpretation. This boy will only encourage their eccentricities even more if he keeps indulging them. "Master," Yifeng said impatiently, "are the other disciples ready? When are we leaving for the Heavenly Tao Battlefield Teleportation Tower?" Luo Woming, snapping out of his thoughts, unsheathed his flying sword and declared, "It's just the two of us. Let's set out now." With that, the two soared into the sky, leaving the Star Extreme sect behind. Back in the courtyard, the ancestral elders watched Yifeng's departure with a pang of regret. "The kid's only been here for a few days," one of them muttered, "but I'll miss him. He probably won't return to the Star Extreme sect. He'll go straight to the Star Soul sect instead." The fourth ancestral elder suddenly perked up. "Should we also go to the Star Soul sect? The Star Extreme sect already has its protective formation active all the time now. We can leave the place running on autopilot." Luo Chanqing's face darkened. "Have you no shame? Not only did you beg for treasures, but now you want to chase after him to the Star Soul sect. Look at Old Fifth. At least he's pragmatic." But Chuyun-chan, ever the opportunist, was already packed and ready to leave. "Elder brother, I leave the Star Extreme sect in your hands, he said, brimming with enthusiasm. I'm truly grateful, Luo Chanqing snapped. Releasing a terrifying aura, he roared. All of you stay right here in our sect. None of you are going to the Star Soul sect. Those who defy me will bear the consequences. Startled by the outburst, the ancestral elders collectively decided they'd pushed things too far, at least for today. As they flew toward the teleportation tower, Ifeng couldn't help but notice the stillness of their surroundings. It seems unusually quiet. I haven't seen any other cultivators or beasts. It's so different from the Star Soul sect, Luo Woming explained. The nearby cultivators have likely hunted down most of the beasts for practice. After all, the creatures of the Heavenly Dao battlefield are several times stronger than regular ones. Even a single beast from there can easily overwhelm several normal beasts. The same goes for cultivators. As for not encountering anyone, it's just the vastness of the Xiantian continent at play. Just as he finished speaking, their path was suddenly blocked by a stunning red-haired beauty. Her crimson eyes glinted as she called out flirtatiously, "Could the two of you entertain me for a bit?" Luo Woming's expression turned grim. "She's a powerful demon. Ifeng, I'll hold her off, you run." But before Ifeng could react, the demoness' sultry voice chimed in again. "Don't go. Stay and keep me company." With a wave of her hand, she launched an attack, swiftly restraining both men. "Just as I thought," Luo Woming muttered, his face dark. "She possesses the power of the 9th layer of the Tribulation Crossing realm." The demoness smiled seductively. "How about a trade? Present something that piques my interest, and I'll let you both go." Luo Woming, not trusting a single word of hers, braced himself for a desperate fight. But before he could act, Ifeng casually flicked his wrist, sending countless drops of great demon fairy blood flying through the air. The sight left the demoness stunned. Luo Woming spun around, his face a mix of fury and disbelief. "Have you lost your mind? Showing such a treasure will only make her less likely to let us go." Unbothered, Ifeng smirked. "It would be best if she tries to deceive us. I'll cut her down myself. She's just a beast, no need to worry." Luo Woming stared at him incredulously. "Do you have a trump card up your sleeve?" Meanwhile, the demoness stood frozen, staring at the great demon fairy blood. Her expression was one of utter disbelief. "If I'm not mistaken, this aura is genuine. The great demon fairy blood wasn't something just anyone could possess, let alone scatter so casually." For a moment, the demoness seemed at a loss. Having revealed her true form, the demoness didn't linger. Without hesitation, she fled, completely disregarding Ifeng's intentions to fight. Once at a safe distance, she glanced at the great demon fairy blood in her grasp and began to ponder. Was I too cautious? Could it be they just stumbled upon this blood by chance? After all, it seems unlikely they could truly handle a demon of my level. Shrugging off her doubts, she placed the great demon fairy blood into her chest. At least I got away with a huge gain. No point in dwelling on it further. However, before she could relax, she heard the sound of rushing wind behind her. Turning her head, she was dumbfounded to see Ifeng riding on Luo Woming's flying sword, chasing after her with determined speed. Ifeng urged his master's father with excitement. "Speed up, master's father. Don't let her get away." He even pulled out a spiritual stone, tossing it to Luo Woming to recharge his energy without hesitation. Luo Woming, seeing Ifeng's enthusiasm, sighed in resignation and increased his speed. The demoness, now on the verge of tears, cried out in frustration. "Are you both out of your minds? I already let you go. Why are you chasing me again?" "Monster, don't run," Ifeng shouted angrily. "Let's have a real fight. If I lose, you can do as you wish with me. But if you lose, you'll become my battle pet." The demoness, utterly terrified, tried to flee faster. She even threw back the great demon fairy blood, hoping to shake them off. But Ifeng wasn't having it. Luo Woming sighed. "I can't catch up to her. Let's just let it go." But Ifeng wasn't ready to give up. Turning to Luo Woming, he said, "Throw me at her." Luo Woming blinked. "What? Are you serious?" Ifeng nodded confidently. Reluctantly, Luo Woming agreed, tossing Ifeng forward with a powerful throw. At lightning speed, Ifeng closed the gap between himself and the demoness. The demoness, startled by his sudden approach, swung her scythe in desperation. "Stay away!" she shouted. At that moment, the system deemed Yifeng's situation life-threatening. The sky seemed to tear apart as a crack opened in space, shocking both Luo Wuming and the demoness. From the void emerged a robust, imposing man. Surveying the scene, he casually commented, "This place sure is noisy." It was the godly wealthy guard squad. The powerful man strode forward, bowing respectfully to Yifeng. "Master, I apologize for the delay. Please forgive me." Still clutching the demoness, Yifeng grinned. "It's all right. You came just in time." The guard stabilized the surrounding space, allowing Yifeng to stand securely in midair. Yifeng tilted his head. "Are you a member of the godly wealthy guard squad? Is it just you?" The guard bowed again. "For this threat, I alone am sufficient. The squad consists of thousands, and the number dispatched varies based on the level of danger you're in." The guard then glared menacingly at the demoness. "Master, do you wish for me to eliminate this threat?" The demoness hastily dropped to her knees, begging for mercy. "Boss, I was wrong. Please spare me." Witnessing this, Yifeng chose to show mercy. He waved the guard away. "If she harbors any intent to kill, please return." The guard bowed deeply. "It is an honor to serve you, master," he said before departing back into the void. Yifeng turned back to the trembling demoness. "Now you have two choices. Become my battle pet or die." Without hesitation, the demoness knelt down. "Master, I will obey your every command." A mystical contract materialized in the air, covered in arcane script. Yifeng frowned, unable to understand a single word. Luo Wuming stepped forward to explain. "This is the Heavenly Tao Blood Pact. Drop your blood on it, and you'll gain complete control over her." Looking at the pitiful, blushing demoness, Yifeng decisively bit his finger and let his blood drip onto the contract. Trading a drop of blood for a battle pet is such a great deal, he thought. The Heavenly Tao Blood Pact absorbed the blood, resonating with power. The demoness trembled as her body burned with an intense energy. After enduring the torment, she was finally subdued. Approaching her with a gentle smile, Yifeng said, "From now on, I am your master. My name is Yifeng." The demoness blushed even deeper at his words. With her now as their mount, Luo Wuming no longer needed to drive. As they flew together, Luo Wuming asked, "I know you come from the higher realms, but who exactly are you?" Yifeng hesitated before replying, "All you need to know, Master's father, is that I am the direct disciple of the Supreme Master." Hearing this, Luo Wuming didn't press further. Instead, he burst into laughter. That Luo Chunchue truly has an excellent disciple. Yifeng felt a mix of emotions upon hearing this. He realized his master's father didn't mind his true identity at all. As the sun set, they finally arrived at the Heavenly Tao Battlefield's teleportation tower. The bustling crowd surprised Yifeng. Luo Wuming explained, "Though the Heavenly Tao Battlefield is dangerous, each realm is an independent space that reassures most cultivators. As a result, countless individuals flock here in search of opportunities and resources." Yifeng smirked. "Given my ability to take on 200 senior brothers, I must be quite outstanding here." To ensure his safety, he asked the system if the godly wealthy guard squad could appear within the battlefield. The system reassured him that the squad wasn't bound by the battlefield's rules. Confident now, Yifeng grinned. "This system is truly impressive. Now I can explore freely." He decided to enter alone, leaving his newly subdued battle pet to escort Luo Wuming back to the sect. "Why do you have so many talismans, and they're all second grade, 9th rank?" Li Fei blurted out in disbelief. Yifeng turned back, puzzled. "Why? To make things easier, of course." This casual response left Li Fei completely dazed. At that moment, the iron-backed rats, seemingly oblivious, were in the middle of what looked like a concert. But before they could finish their performance, the rats were bombarded by a rain of talismans, specifically Yifeng's Earth Prisoner talismans. In an instant, the rats were immobilized. Yifeng then took his time delivering the finishing blow, knocking them out one by one as if he were playing a game of whack-a-mole. Li Fei stared at the scene, utterly baffled. "Is this for real? You used 300 expensive talismans just to kill some iron-backed rats? Are you hunting monsters? Or are you just squandering money?" After clearing out the rats, Yifeng turned to Li Fei and asked nonchalantly, "So, Brother Li, what do you think of my strength now?" Li Fei was flabbergasted, unable to focus on Yifeng's strength. Instead, his mind was stuck on the sheer extravagance he'd just witnessed. Even a single Earth Prisoner talisman was something he couldn't break without using all his power. And here was Yifeng using them like confetti. "Are you here to show off? Why such an excessive display of wealth?" Li Fei muttered. As Yifeng prepared to leave, Li Fei pointed to the demon cores scattered on the ground. "Aren't you going to take these cores? Even though they're from low-tier monsters, they're still valuable." Yifeng looked genuinely surprised. "Brother Li, do you really lack money that much? In that case, I'll leave these for you." Li Fei was completely dumbstruck. He can't be serious. He came to the Heavenly Dao battlefield and doesn't even want the resources? He couldn't help but mutter inwardly, "I want to see how long you can keep up this act." Just then, a figure zoomed toward them. "You two brats, hand over the iron-backed rat corpses if you don't want to die," the newcomer demanded. Yifeng glanced at him nonchalantly and replied, "Which game do you hail from? Daring to mess with me? Finally, someone trying to rob me. I'll deal with you, punk." With that, Yifeng unleashed another barrage of Earth Prisoner talismans. The robber, completely unprepared, was instantly trapped. "Didn't you just use hundreds? How do you still have so many?" the robber yelled in disbelief. But before he could struggle for long, Yifeng clutched even more talismans in his hand, smiling menacingly. The robber's heart sank. After breaking free of one talisman, the robber found himself trapped again and again. Eventually, utterly exhausted, he shouted, "Relying on external tools is no measure of skill. If you're a real man, let me out and we'll fight on equal terms." In response, Yifeng thrust his sword directly at him, declaring coldly, "You, a mere lowlife, are not worthy of facing me." Yifeng's suave demeanor left Li Fei shaken. "Damn, this guy's ruthless. I was completely fooled earlier. I thought he was innocent and kind, but it was all a facade." The realization made Li Fei's heart race in fear. At that moment, Yifeng turned hospitable. He handed a bunch of Earth Prisoner talismans to Li Fei, saying casually, "Use these whenever you run into trouble." Looking at the talismans in his hand, Li Fei finally understood the truth. Yifeng wasn't pretending to be rich, he was genuinely wealthy. No wonder he didn't value monster corpses. The man simply didn't care about money. Yifeng glanced at the horizon, noting that the new day was only 5 hours away, but he still had over 9,000 talismans left. "I need to use them all up quickly," he muttered. Consequently, the two of them spent the night throwing talismans left and right without a care. By the end of the spree, they had finally exhausted all 9,000 talismans. Yifeng collapsed to the ground, exhausted. It's so tiring to spend so freely. Meanwhile, Li Fei was smiling from ear to ear. The profit he'd made in just one night wasn't even 1/20th of what he'd gained from using Yifeng's talismans. He was convinced now Yifeng had to be a core disciple of a major sect, someone not to be trifled with. As Yifeng regained his composure, he addressed Li Fei. "Little Fei, I won't let you work for free. Take this enlightenment pill and consume it. I'll protect you while you meditate." Li Fei hesitated, looking at the pill in his hand. A dubious expression crossed his face. "Is this a poisonous pill? But if I don't consume it, will this lavish guy attack me with another treasure?" After some consideration, Li Fei decided to swallow the pill. After all, if Yifeng wanted me dead, he wouldn't need to go to such lengths. The moment Li Fei swallowed the pill, a wave of clarity washed over him. He immediately sat cross-legged, entering a state of enlightenment. Yifeng stood guard, ensuring no harm came to him. Truthfully, had Yifeng not received so many enlightenment pills as a reward, he wouldn't have given one to Li Fei. After all, he had plans to save some for his pet dog. If that dog knew about this, it would probably refuse the pill outright. 20 minutes later, Li Fei's enlightenment ended. He opened his eyes, a bit annoyed at himself for wasting the first 2 minutes in a daze. Without hesitation, he knelt down and expressed his gratitude. "Brother E, I'll never forget this favor. If you ever need anything, just say the word." Curious, Yifeng asked, "Which world do you come from?" Li Fei replied, "The Heavenly Fire Realm." Yifeng blinked. "I've never heard of it." Li Fei smiled awkwardly. "It's not that well known. Honestly, I was hoping we might be from the same place. It would have made bonding easier, but I guess fate had other plans." Sometime later, the duo spotted shimmering objects in the distance. Li Fei, who had seen much of the world, immediately took out a pickaxe and exclaimed, "Brother E, we're in luck. These are low-grade spiritual crystals. Looks like there are about 200 here." Li Fei enthusiastically started mining, while Yifeng simply looked puzzled. "That's it." Noticing Yifeng's disinterest, Li Fei asked, "You don't want any?" Yifeng replied nonchalantly, "I came here just for fun and to splurge. I have plenty of precious items already. The Heavenly Dao battlefield doesn't really appeal to me." Li Fei, watching Yifeng's casual demeanor, felt the urge to punch him. But suddenly an idea struck him. "Brother E, if you're looking to splurge, why not visit Heavenly Dao City?" Intrigued, Yifeng asked, "What's that?" Li Fei explained, "It's the most unique place in the Heavenly Dao battlefield. Treasures, resources, cultivation techniques, you can buy anything there if you have the money. It's a paradise for spendthrifts, and the laws of the Heavenly Dao ensure no conflicts or robberies occur. However, entry required a Heavenly Dao token, and Li Fei only had one. I found it in some ruins," he explained, "but I haven't used it since everything there is too expensive for me." Touched by Yifeng's earlier generosity, Li Fei handed the token over as a token of gratitude. Yifeng, not one to take without giving, handed him a bottle of enlightenment pills in return. Moments later, Yifeng dripped blood onto the token. A cloud of smoke enveloped him, and with a loud pop, he vanished. Li Fei chuckled. 13 enlightenment pills for a token I couldn't even use? What a great deal. Meanwhile, Yifeng reappeared in Heavenly Dao City. He was stunned. The city resembled a modern metropolis. If it weren't for the ancient-style clothing of the people around him, Yifeng might have thought he'd returned to his ancestral planet. Feeling nostalgic, Yifeng muttered, "This place feels like home," but his cultivation in the Qi activation realm didn't seem to impress the other practitioners. He could hear them muttering, "What's a Qi activation realm cultivator doing here?" Suddenly, Yifeng heard an argument nearby. Turning, he saw two practitioners who looked eerily like super scions bickering. Confused, Yifeng thought, "Isn't this place supposed to be conflict-free?" A nearby man explained, "They aren't actually fighting, just having a heated argument." The man leaning against a sedan explained. Curious, Yifeng asked, "Who might you be?" The man grinned. "Need a ride?" Starting at 5 Heavenly Dao points. Realizing what he meant, Yifeng muttered, "So you're a cab driver?" Perplexed, he then asked, "What are these Heavenly Dao points?" The driver's smile vanished. "You don't know what Heavenly Dao points are? Are you new here? What a waste of my time." With that, he drove off, leaving Yifeng annoyed. "I was just asking a simple question," he muttered. "Why so temperamental?" Deciding to figure it out himself, Yifeng headed toward the Heavenly Dao Bank. Upon entering, he was warmly greeted by a staff member named Money Tiger. Without delay, Yifeng asked, "Do you have Heavenly Dao points here?" Money Tiger, who instantly recognized Yifeng as a newcomer, smiled patiently instead of belittling him. "Yes," he explained. "In Heavenly Dao City, 1 top-grade spiritual crystal can be exchanged for 1 Heavenly Dao point. All transactions in the city require these points." Surprised, Yifeng exclaimed, "That's cheap. Why didn't anyone tell me earlier?" Then, noticing the name tag on the staff member's chest, Yifeng remarked, "Money Tiger? That's quite the name." Money Tiger chuckled awkwardly but felt slightly embarrassed. Though he was a powerful cultivator in the Tribulation Crossing realm from the Water Spirit realm, working as a bank attendant might seem laughable to others. Yet, the perks of earning Heavenly Dao points while exempt from token time limits made the job worthwhile. Yifeng, however, couldn't help but comment, "Aren't you wasting your time here? Don't you need to cultivate? Aren't top-grade spiritual crystals hard to get in the Heavenly Dao battlefield?" These words hit Money Tiger like 3 consecutive blows, leaving him speechless. Although irritated, Money Tiger suppressed his emotions and focused on sending Yifeng away as quickly as possible. But just as the transaction seemed to wrap up, Yifeng stopped him. "Wait a moment." Money Tiger braced himself, expecting more nonsense. To his astonishment, Yifeng pulled out a spatial ring filled with 100 million top-grade spiritual crystals. "Exchange them all for Heavenly Dao points," he said casually. Money Tiger's eyes widened in disbelief. Stunned by the staggering wealth, his attitude shifted instantly. Now brimming with enthusiasm, he eagerly began processing the exchange. As Yifeng watched the transaction unfold, he mused to himself, "This world is getting more and more interesting. Next time, I should get a few more heavenly Tao tokens and bring my beautiful master here to enjoy the city. Handsome men and beautiful women in a place like this. It would be delightful." Just then, Money Tiger zipped over with remarkable speed, holding a processed card in his hand. Yifeng was momentarily stunned by the efficiency. Eager to leave a good impression on Yifeng, whom he now perceived as a god of wealth, Money Tiger politely offered, "If you have any questions, please feel free to ask." But Yifeng, uninterested, replied, "No need. I see you're busy, so I won't bother you." Internally, Money Tiger cried, "Don't leave, god of wealth." But outwardly, he maintained his professional demeanor. Afterward, Yifeng wandered the city, marveling at the modern architecture seamlessly blending with the ancient aesthetic. It felt oddly familiar, almost like a traveler or someone from another world had designed it. He stumbled upon a vending machine offering merchandise from a popular idol. Tempted to try it, he inserted his points. But just as he reached for his reward, a rift opened behind him, sucking him in. The next thing he knew, Yifeng was back in the Heavenly Tao battlefield. Looking around in confusion, he cursed, "It was supposed to last a day. Li Fei, you deceiving bastard. Why did it only last half a day? Damn it. I didn't even get my merchandise." Recalling how Li Fei had claimed the token was found in ruins, Yifeng deduced that its duration might vary. "These tokens must only be found in ruins," he muttered, resolving to settle the score with Li Fei if they ever crossed paths again. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Li Fei sneezed. He glanced around, puzzled. "Why does it feel like someone's cursing me?" At the Star Extreme sect, an elder dressed in a red robe stared at the 9-star sword formation, which was inexplicably activated in broad daylight. Baffled, he muttered, "What's going on?" Before long, Luo Chanxing arrived. Recognizing the elder, he laughed. "You old fellow, what brings you here?" The red-robed elder sighed, clearly troubled. "It's hard to explain." After a moment of silence, he shared his unbelievable story. 30 years ago, in the Heavenly Tao battlefield, he had obtained a Heavenly Tao token. Using it, he entered Heavenly Tao City and worked tirelessly for 3 decades. Through extreme thriftiness, he managed to purchase 2 defensive artifacts capable of withstanding Heavenly Tao thunder tribulations. Yet, when he returned to the battlefield, only a second had passed in the outside world. Hearing this, Luo Chanxing invited him inside. But as they walked, Bai Gang, another elder, appeared and interjected, "Wait, Luo Chanxing, are you using top-grade spiritual crystals to power your protective formation?" Luo Chanxing smirked smugly. "That's right. Our sect uses top-grade spiritual crystals for its formation. I bet you've never seen any. I'll give you a few later." Bai Gang's expression darkened. Enraged, he punched Luo Chanxing. "Are you insane? We've been in the Heavenly Tao battlefield for years. Have you ever seen a top-grade spiritual crystal? Even low-quality ones suffice. Do you even understand their value?" Rubbing his swollen cheek, Luo Chanxing retorted defensively, "Was it necessary to hit me?" Bai Gang ignored his complaint and revealed the defensive artifacts he had purchased. These mini-towers can withstand up to the 7th Heavenly Tao Thunder Tribulation. Do you know how much they cost? Over 3 million top-grade spiritual crystals. However, Luo Chanxing, familiar with the Xiantian continent, scoffed. "Artifacts that can withstand Heavenly Tao Thunder Tribulations? That's nonsense." Thanks for watching, guys. Comment Flamingo and subscribe for the next part.